Hey there, Knicks fans. Happy bunch today, I'm sure. How you doing? It's your boy Jonathan Macri with you for a special trade deadline edition of the Knicks Film School live stream here on our YouTube channel. Thanks everybody who's already joined, and shout out in advance to those who are listening after the fact on the good old podcast feed, wherever you get your podcasts. I am joined today by, better half doesn't even begin to describe it. He's like my better 78%. I don't know. I don't know. I don't even know why I'm here. Jeremy Cohen.
Hey, John, this is, this has been quite a day. It's, I know you're not really into SpongeBob or memes, but do you know that SpongeBob meme of Squidward looking out of his house?
Yes, and I do know that.
That's how it feels at the moment.
Also joining us, the man behind the curtain that holds it all together, the one, the only Andrew Claudio.
Hi, John. Leon, do something. I don't want to deal with them anymore. Please do something. I'd like.
You don't want to deal with what anymore?
Yeah, who's them?
Them, they, Twitter, people. This fan base that is ready to explode if Leon Rose doesn't do something.
And honestly, though, rightfully so.
I think
in a lot of ways, yeah.
Yeah, I'll say this. This is going to start with a slight short reiteration of something we said yesterday. And then I'll expand it to something else. There is no way that if the Knicks don't make any trades, there's no way that Leon Rose and his front office staff that he's assembled, and all parties involved don't come out of this looking like failures. I think, and thanks Jaden Evans for getting our super chat started off. Just here to support KFS. We appreciate you. I think there will be misplaced angst in that people will be upset that the Knicks didn't do something today. Not that it really matters. Whereas the proper placement of angst should be towards what they did over the summer, because you're not going to make a bad deal. The Knicks are not going to pay a tax to trade a contract that no one wants. But then again, why does nobody want it? That's a problem with the signings you made during the summer. And the thing I wanted to expand upon that, and then I'll turn it over to Jeremy to get his thoughts. We'll talk about like the Harden trade and the whole thing. Is I don't think the Knicks front office ever foresaw the season going like it did, which is to say, essentially being at the point where they are kind of ready. I mean, not kind of ready. They are. By all accounts, they have entered this trade line being like, we want to sell. We want to sell our vets. We want to sell the players that we signed to help us play basketball and win basketball games this year. And nobody wants them. So I don't think the Knicks ever foresaw themselves being in that position. I figure their worst case scenario in their minds over the summer was that, hey, maybe we don't, it's not the same winning pace as last year. We're not as high a seed, whatever, but there is no scenario where we are not at least competitive for a play-in spot, or realistically competitive for a playoff spot, and definitely a play-in spot throughout the entire year. And they, let's call a spade. They aren't. We can get into the reasons why that is and who's to blame, and the Rose injury and this, that, and the other thing. But a lot of it has to do with the fact that guys have not played well, and guys have not done their jobs, played as well as they need to. So now the one thing I will say, and nobody wants to hear any defense of this front office right now, but I'm going to offer a slight one. In terms of alternative options, you could point to, a contract here, a contract there that you would have preferred them to sign over the summer. But I think it was reasonable to expect that, hey, you bring the band back together, you add a couple of pieces, things are going to be okay. And, again, it hasn't happened. What's it going to cost them? That's a more interesting question. I mean, I don't know that it's going to cost them much. That's why they signed all these guys essentially to 2-year deals, with the exception of Fournier. And we could get into the rumored trade that obviously is not going to happen anymore because Dragic has been dealt. But like the notion that I don't know. I think Fournier may have a little bit more value coming down the pike, but whatever. We'll get to that stuff. So yeah, Jeremy, thoughts from you?
Well, they are in the play-in competition. They're only 2.5 back. The problem is,
They
do
are,
you
but-
really believe that this team is going to make up the ground that's necessary? If you compare where we are at right now with this season in terms of where the Knicks were at last season when they made the Memphis run, they're actually earlier than that. But it's like, do you really want to bank on them winning 9 games in a row and getting themselves more firmly entrenched in the playoff picture? Because I don't see that really happening. And yeah, we're talking about,
and neither do they.
No, exactly. We were talking about this last night. The idea of Derrick Rose going down was huge. It was incredibly impactful. And Kemba not playing well is a huge thorn. And then shifting Alec Burks, everything gets thrown out of alignment, and it just doesn't help the players around them. And then the Knicks start losing and their values all drop. Because again, when you have a team of players who are losing, it doesn't help. People like to trade for players on teams that are winning. But of course, then the flip side of it is, if you're winning, then why would you go about doing that? Why would you trade that player necessarily? So obviously a lot of different directions they can go. Just very briefly, as I see, yeah, it's just, okay. It's a Tom Thibodeau says RJ Barrett's day to day with an ankle. So that's great. It's nice that at least the Knicks current centerpiece for the future is okay after a very scary moment. But, just like, that's the thing. I think if nothing happens today, I'm angry. I'm disappointed. It doesn't really impact the long-term future, but here's the difference is, it's like, how do you get from here to the end of the season? Because now at that point, it would start to feel like more of a chore, because if you're seeing the same thing get rolled out, if you've seen Kemba in the lineup, the starting lineup, in that point guard position, and you're getting nothing from him and you're showcasing him and you don't trade him, how you approach that, how you fit the younger players in, all of these different things. And I mean, if you look at the teams that are below the Knicks in terms of the standings for quote unquote tanking, the Pelicans got better. The Blazers got worse. The Kings got better. The Spurs are getting worse.
Yeah.
The Wizards are without Bradley Beal. So,
They got worse.
no matter what, this team is probably going to find itself in the top 10 come draft lottery night, which is fine if you're thinking like, oh, well, what can they do? It's just about how you make the pieces work in the meantime, because this season has not been fun. And just like how you get from February 10th to the last game of the season, which is April 10th.
Yeah. And so good transition. Jason M with a comment here. They need to trade. Tibbs won't stop playing the vets. This is good news.
Speaking of which,
Quentin Grimes is going to play tonight. That's great. But hold on. But then Popper just had Barrett's out tonight.
Yes.
I don't know. Oh no, he's been downgraded to out for tonight's game. Okay, there we go. Yeah, Tibbs won't stop playing the vets. Look, if the vets continue to play and Tibbs is doing something that the front office does not believe in, then that's a sign of there is discord in the organization, because if they can't corral their coach and what their coach is doing, then that's obviously an issue. I don't believe that's going to be the case. We'll see. Obviously, we won't know yet. The only thing I just want to say, and then we'll get to the comments, and people are going to be, Thibodeau said Quentin Grimes could start for RJ Barrett. Okay, interesting. I think the only thing that I'm going to want to say before people put Leon Rose up on a cross here is I'm okay indicting to a certain extent Leon Rose and the front office for their performance of this calendar year. What I would caution against is for people to say the man doesn't know what he's doing. He doesn't know how to run a front office, this, that, and the other thing. They were operating from as significant a talent deficit as any team in the league when Leon Rose took over. Nobody wanted any of these players. I mean, shit, nobody even really thought much of RJ Barrett. And expectations were obviously heightened. And then, the next question is like, okay, was there a different pivot from that very fairy tale season that they could have made other than the one they did? And yeah, we could go back and forth about like, oh, was there a way to trade Randall off of last season or this and that? Like, I'm fine having those conversations. What I'd like to avoid, at least today, and I know I say this in full knowledge of the fact that we are not going to be able to avoid this, is like, get Leon Rose out. He's terrible. He's not the man to lead the Knicks. It's really hard to get from fucking terrible, which is what the Knicks were, to decent, let alone very good consistently in the NBA when you don't have an obvious path to a star. And I personally don't believe that the Knicks could have pivoted into a tank before the season. We'll see if they pivot into what does a tank look like. I don't know now, but something resembling a tank for the rest of this year, to try to get their star that way. And then we wait and see what the next year and a half brings, because I think that was always kind of the timeline. Somebody asking me to put a plate over get a Leon Rose poster and put a plate over his face. I'm going to look for one of those on the internet.
Just for what it's worth, Tibbs said at shoot around, he will hear from Leon if something gets close this hour, but I like our guys. That's from Mark Berman. You could read it one of two ways. You could read it as Tibbs is basically implying like, oh, I like our guys. We're going to keep it as is. And we're not going to make any changes. I guess you could then also see it as Berman doing Berman things, I suppose. I don't know. You could read into it.
What's he going to say?
Yeah.
I don't like our guys.
Nothing else to say.
Abe.
Steve Nash said yesterday, what?
Oh, yeah.
This whole week?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Oh.
Everybody lies. Abe, in the super chat, nothing will happen because they're waiting for Rose because they want to see what would have been. I love Nick's Twitter is in full meltdown. LMAO. Look, I don't love that anybody is tearing their hair out today. It's unfortunate. I get it. I'm not. You're not going to see a whole lot of outrage from me. Because again, I've kind of processed my outrage slowly over the course of the season as this thing has fallen apart. If you want to go see me be outraged, watch me on any of the post games for any of the games that they've lost or played poorly and won. Like, again, that's the outrage because that's directed at the fact that these guys have not played well. I am not going to be outraged that they can't move any of these guys that haven't played well today because it's hard to move bad basketball players. But that goes to your point about Rose. Like, they want to see what Rose is gonna be. Okay, Sean Ford, irrational hope. I'm clinging. He's clinging. Getting Jalen Brunson and Miles Turner in the summer. Kemba better not play another minute. Thanks for all you do, KFS. I think that's a reasonable maybe an expectation. I don't know. I'd put Brunson at like pretty good odds, right?
Yeah, it's just it admittedly is easier to get Brunson if you can
create cap space.
Right. But if you can't do that, then it does create other problems. So I can elaborate more on it in 47 minutes. I can also do it. I'm sure there'll probably be a Brunson cap or no cap at some point. So there will be ample time for me to dissect that. But yeah, again, it's then the center position, right? Like if you trade for Miles Turner, you're basically saying, well, we need to make sure that we're still carving out ways to make room for Jalen Brunson because he's making $18 million. Miles Turner is. So how do you fit all of these pieces in place? And if you're Indiana, do you even want to trade him? You've just acquired Tyrese Halliburton. You have Chris Duarte. I know. Yeah. Like there may not be a reason for you to want to do it. They don't tank. This year is like the one exception. And they chose Halliburton over picks, I would imagine, because they want to get talent in the building, even if it's young.
Mike, I saw Kevin Danishevsky's comment. Michael Aaron. We'll get to that one in a second. Michael Aaron, Nick.
John, hold on. Did you miss? I think you missed like a bunch of super chats.
If I did, then
I
oh yes,
yeah,
I see them now.
Go to Michael Aaron, and then I'll go back for you. Don't worry.
No, I got it. Okay. Ryan Huang, right? Yeah, there we go. Yes. Trade to Dallas first for Daryl Morey. Who says no? I've always loved Daryl Morey as an executive. I'll just say
he won.
What?
He won. He got what he wanted.
He won. I don't look. It was the best deal they could have made, and he got out of a situation that was not ideal, and he navigated as good as possible. Would I want to have James Harden on that contract moving forward? Maybe not. Is it going to matter if Joel Embiid is there and with Joel Embiid able to do what he's going to do? No, I don't think. I think you take that chance.
If they win a title this year, then even more validated.
And I might put them at we could discuss whether they're the favorites or not. They might be. Mello from Toronto. What a great dynasty and run by the Nets. LOL. I just need
Brooklyn.
See, we can always laugh at Brooklyn.
Yeah.
How shitty our day is going. I just need one trade, boys. That's it. Just one trade. I think you're going to get a trade. I still think you're going to get a trade. There has to be one move that'll happen, right? LOL. I mean, look, there doesn't have to be anything. I think there will be, but we'll see. It's getting late early. Jeremy E. Do they move Randall during the summer if we miss the play-in, parentheses, which we all expect to happen? I don't know. I don't know that I would say that. What?
I don't know if I expect it.
I don't. But I also don't know that one thing has anything to do, like whether they make the plan or they don't make the. I mean, if they make the plan and then like win a little bit and like push a team in the first round, then I would probably say no. It decreases the likelihood. Although you convince me otherwise. Like I just think they're going to assess Randall on his face, the contract on his face, the situation on its face. And if they could move him for what they consider to be good value, then they'll move him for what they consider to be good value. I think the bloom is off the rose, though, as far as like he's this untouchable organizational centerpiece. Like that's gone. And that's not, maybe that'll come back. I don't foresee that ever coming back.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Depends on how he plays.
It depends on how he plays. Luffy. And shout out to Benji. Ben Ridholtz did a great thread on Randall today and showing how he has actually been quite good over the last 6 games. I will give you that. Luffy, we had a quiet deadline last year too. We made most of our moves in the offseason. If we barely do anything then, that's when I would be concerned. Yeah, I think I'll get aboard the maybe not fire Leon bandwagon, but I'll be, if they just bring this team back next year, that would be that would be a significant problem. Yeah, it's time to, they tried this, didn't really work. At the same time, they're not going to, first of all, it's not like it's a great summer to it's not like there's a lot that could necessarily happen this summer. It might be a stagnant-ish summer, but they have to shake things up. They can't bring this team back. Right, Jeremy?
No
chance. You disagree?
They can absolutely not say, hey, we'll just rebound and it'll be fine. Or bounce back, I guess would be the better term since it's basketball. No, they have to do something. It's just a matter of how they position themselves. With last year's deadline, at the time, a reason I was upset was you have all this cap space. Why are you not using it to take on some sort of contract? But the reality was that there was no other team that took on money. So it was like, how can you be upset at just the circumstances? Here, what we're seeing is that the teams that are basically trading contracts that are similar, right? So we're seeing expiring for expiring. We're seeing longer term for longer term. We're not seeing a ton
good players.
Right. That's the other thing. Like this Celtics Spurs trade involving Derek White and for Josh Richardson and a first round pick and Romeo Langford. Like that's the type of move that makes sense. So, it's RJ Barrett limping around in walking boot at arena. Okay.
That's what you want to hear.
Exactly. But anyways, regardless of that, that's the sort of thing where it's like, if you're wondering why they're not going about it, they're not finding the compatible matches. And listen, I know that we still do have time for this to occur. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't be thinking of the Knicks. We obviously should. This is a Knicks podcast. We're Knicks fans. There are also other teams that have not made these trades yet, and they desperately need to. And the Knicks have time on their side, just realistically speaking. I don't mean today. I mean, the grand scheme of things, the window, the time is on their side. It really is, versus a team like Los Angeles where the Lakers were embarrassed last night in Portland. Yeah. And what are they going to do? That's where you panic if you are a fan of that team. But otherwise, you're probably not as concerned. Like maybe if you're Atlanta, you're probably a bit more anxious than we are, because you're thinking this is supposed to be a good team and we have to get better, and how are we not making upgrades? But again, this is about the Knicks. We can focus on the Knicks. It's just context. There are other teams and fan bases that I'm sure are feeling very similarly, and we'll see how it keeps playing out.
I'll say I did hear today that regarding the Lakers, apparently everything you've been hearing about, that they're desperate to move Russ and they've been trying to get the Knicks to take him. That's very legit. But as of now, no deal, and we hope it will still be no deal. Okay. Ivan Omar. I wouldn't be surprised if we end up doing nothing, but I will be disappointed if the rotations don't change, considering that we aren't going anywhere. If there's one player who can help Tibbs, it's Derrick Rose. Yeah, we could wait and over the second half or the second hour of the show, talk about like what we want to see rotation wise, when we want to see it. Again, there is, what is there, 25 games left, 27 games left, like some whereabouts, something like that.
27 games.
27 games. So it's like, you know, if you gave Knick fans the over or the date of like, okay, guys are going to be getting started to get shut down at like game 18, 19, 17, something like that. Like, what would people say? Would you be okay with that? Would you be like, I don't know. Again, if you're asking me like gun to my head, if they don't trade Kemba Walker, is Kemba Walker starting tonight in Golden State? My gut feeling would say yes. Do I want him to? No, absolutely not. Okay, now we're gonna get to Michael Aaron. Sorry to leave you hanging before, Michael. I don't know how I just like missed a bunch of super chats. Nick's Twitter.
Why I'm here.
It's been 2 years. Time to fire the coach and lose trust in the front office. The PTSD is exhausting to listen to over and over. I mean, look, it's the age we live in, right? It's the age we live in. I mean, I'm old. I don't know the age we live in because I don't really exist in this age. I exist in my own bubble, in which I look at cap sheets and film, and that's it. No, we got
Washington is sending Trez to Charlotte.
Okay.
Were they on the list of 11, Jeremy?
Charlotte and Washington were.
So
for context, Andrew and I were talking about teams that have not made a trade this past week. So now we have 9 teams that have not made a trade yet.
I want to see if the Knicks are the only team that doesn't make a deal, just to heighten the intensity of the frustration that Michael Aaron is alluding to.
But again, guess what? Montrezl Harrell, he's a good basketball player.
Yeah.
You know,
John,
he's in the running for 6th man of the year. Yeah.
So we have Twitter and the Knicks Twitter conversation as part of our bubble. So I will just say this. I agree in the fact that you can't complain about get this guy off my team for 4 months and then wonder why nobody wants him. Like, I get that. And I agree with Michael that 2 years is not an adequate sample size to go to the extreme of fire Tibbs, fire Leon Rose, replace everybody. You got to allow people to learn from their mistakes when they're doing something for the first time.
But you can't be critical.
You can be critical. No, that's where I was going to counterpoint and say, like, I empathize with people that are frustrated by how unwatchable this basketball team is and would like to see a different version of that team starting tonight. Especially
since that was supposed to be the given. Mm-hmm. That at the very least, the Knicks were going to take a product that was incredibly watchable and make it, at the very least, not less watchable, right? They were going to make it more watchable. They were going to make it more enjoyable. Could you quibble with, you know, the direction? Oh, wow. Is this all they got? No,
PJ Washington.
Well, there has to be some sort of pick compensation, I would
imagine.
imagine.
So apparently it's Harrell for Vernon Carey, who was taken in the top of the 2nd round. Apparently the Knicks wanted him last year. And Ish Smith, who was an expiring contract. This can't just be about offloading. Does Harrell have does he have an option or something for next year?
No, he's a free agent. He's an unrestricted free agent.
He's unrestricted. So they have to be getting
something. So Ish Smith has a partial guarantee, or at least it's non-guaranteed.
Yes,
so.
That much I know. I will say this though about in terms of like, and we could go through like the values of the different players and like if they do get traded, don't get traded, whatever. I did think the rumored trade, which would have had Noel end up in Toronto, the reason why I was hopeful about that, I was like, you know what? Actually, if there's one team in the league I could kind of see being like, you know what, we'll roll the dice with Noel. It's Toronto because they could just switch everything. He's comfortable switching out on the perimeter, and they have like still 4 guys because they don't play anybody under 6'9". They would still have 4, a bunch of guys on the court who could still make up for your rim protection than being out on the perimeter. On the offensive end of the court, maybe a bit of a different story, but they have guys that could score the ball. Alas. Okay, Kevin Danishevsky. I love this. Get Leon Rose out of here. He's terrible. Fire Tibbs. Hire David Fizdale back with Kurt Rambis as the assistant and hire Mills back. Hashtag annoying John is fun. I know you do it in love, Kevin. Wizard. Okay, so Wizards are. This is what a fire sale looks like. The Wizards are trading Aaron Holiday to Phoenix.
Oh, Phoenix was on that list until the Jason Smith trade too. So
when they traded Jalen Smith, they they made it.
When we
off of-
originally made the list, there were 12 teams, and then Phoenix, right before we came on live, made it 11. So who are the Jeremy? Do you know then offhand who the 9 teams are? It's the Knicks.
Well, I can.
Let's
count
go. We
from
want to
here,
go
right?
through.
So
Yeah,
it's-
count from here.
It's Houston. That's
Okay.
1. The Knicks. That makes 2. The Lakers. The Hawks.
Give me
That's
Russ
4.
for John Wall. Just killed 2 birds at one stone here.
By the way, only a second round pick in the Harold trade.
Interesting. Yeah.
Okay.
Not
Denver
a lot
is
for
5.
a 6 man of the year.
Denver.
thing, but-
Okay.
Minnesota is 6. Dallas is 7. Bulls are 8. And the Heat are 9. And then Grizzlies are 10. So actually, it's now 10. So we must have miscounted somewhere or something. But yeah, I mean, that's what we
10
got.
teams. That's one of the 10.
All right, let's keep it
We're
going.
in the top 10, guys. We made
There
it.
you go. Let's hope
Wrong
it works
top
out on
10.
lottery night. Guy Huber, then biggest issue going forward if we do nothing is that we just assume they'll shut down the vets, but nothing Tibbs has ever done implied he'd be down. I don't know that Tibbs has ever been in this situation, is what I will say. His Chicago teams were in the playoffs every year. In Minnesota, his first season, there were he obviously played the kids because the kids were the centerpiece of the team. Second season, went to the playoffs. Third season, he was fired midway through. Last season, made the playoffs. So maybe you're right. But you can't say that nothing Tibbs has ever done implies he'd be down because, again, this is a unique situation, at least for Tom Thibodeau as a head coach. G. Beers, Burks could have value for the right team. Wouldn't trading him to him be more to open up a rotation spot? Does it matter what you get back? Thoughts? I'll speak to this. If Alec Burks is on this team after the deadline, I'll say it's a disaster. Because if you unless you're going to tell me that no one was willing to offer a second round pick, then it's a bad job. I'm not saying where I draw the line is again, people who are get Kemba off my team. Okay, you want to give up a second round pick to get off of him now when you may be able to not have to give up a second round pick to get off of him in the summer? That's just not very smart asset management. If you have a trade on any trade for anything for Burks, almost anything, I don't know, Jeremy, would you trade Burks for a bullshit top 55 protected, or not even that, just a regular old second round pick in this year or next year from a team that is clearly very good? Would you do that?
See, that's where I struggle, right? Because you don't want to give a player away, and
let's say you have to take back money,
right? You don't then it doesn't really do much. I guess the thing that I'm thinking of is because I don't see Tibbs as necessarily being the guy to be cool, let's shut everyone down. Maybe some players, but it's the sort of thing where it's maybe he does what he's done before, which is you start guys, and then as the season goes on, they play fewer and fewer minutes. So the starting 5 that's there, they basically play 6 minutes or 7 minutes, whatever it is. You try to truncate it a little bit more, because I don't see Tibbs just being you know what, let's just play a bunch of young players and I'm totally cool with that. Maybe the team talks with some of the players like Kemba to say, listen, we want to go another direction. We want to work something out with you next year and getting you to a place that you'd maybe be more amenable to go to. But for right now, we're kind of stuck here. Let's figure out a way to find a solution so we can help us help you, sort of thing.
I think it's a different conversation for each player. And again, maybe I don't know. You know what? Let's table this and we'll get to it after the deadline, because I think there's a unique conversation to be had around Noel, around Kemba, around Fournier, and around Burks. So
by the way, Jeremy, Miami made a trade yesterday.
Right. KZ Okpala.
Yeah.
So we're back down to 9.
We are. Good call.
Excellent Jerry Maguire reference, by the way. I watched that the other day.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I haven't seen.
And we are.
I'm in football week mode, John. Shout out, Remember the Titans.
Which is I think I've seen that movie once.
You think?
I'm not a I'm not big.
Okay, you need to finish the sentence. You're not a football movie guy. You're not a Denzel guy.
First of all, I've never been a huge sports movie guy.
Okay,
I've told you that.
That's fair. That's fair. Okay.
I'd just rather watch sports. Danny Gardner. What's going on, Danny? Well, it's frustrating they haven't done anything. It's tough to trade these assets in the season. Again, you're saying assets. I think that's why it's tough, because they're not really assets. The offseason will be a much bigger referendum on them. 100%. Well said. Don't have anything to add. Hush Zoo. After this Harden move, the Knicks should go real youth movement. They're not winning anything now. Unfortunate for Tibbs, his team is in the Atlantic Division. Should prepare for 2025 and beyond.
I don't know about quite that far in the future.
Yeah,
maybe a little earlier than that. But yes, they should start involving the youth a bit more than they have been. 100%.
I still think their plan is to have a player that is a very good basketball player, a very, 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 very good basketball player on this team at the latest by opening night 20 of the 2023-24 season.
Correct.
And again, all of the defense of Leon and his front office staff, from me at least, has been centered on that is their plan. And if that plan does not come to fruition, then you want to fire all the Leon Roses you want. I don't really care. You have a guy 3 years, New York City, major market, had some successes. Can't do it in 3 years. I think that's a long enough road.
Well, here's the pushback I'll give you.
Sure.
In terms of, you could say, New York market and everything, but if you look at the people who have come before Leon Rose, right? Steve Mills put out a crap product, but also there were issues constantly.
Yes.
Phil Jackson had his entire thing was basically trying to get back to normal, which is basically, zero.
But is that the standard? Should that be the standard? Phil Jackson.
I'm not saying it's the standard. I'm just saying if we look at
Isaiah Thomas,
they gave Phil Jackson at least 3 years to do something. And there were all sorts of problems. They gave Steve Mills
Steve Mills
2.5 to 3 years. Yeah, they gave him almost 3 years, and that was just pure chaos. If you're the Knicks, again, you've already made one trip to the playoffs. You're in good graces. If the Knicks didn't make the playoffs at all last year and they were struggling, we had the similar problems that we're seeing now.
Yeah.
Then I think you can say, I'm really starting to wonder about what's going on here. But they earned themselves some time because
that's
of
fair.
that.
That's fair.
Let me put it this way, because this is what I've been thinking. If the Knicks have a bad season, right? I look at it as you have a good year and you have a bad year. Yep. So you're not quite at neutral, but you're pretty close to it in terms of how the team has played. The big thing that we cannot answer right now is if this season is worth it because of the draft pick. If you hit on the draft pick, then big. It's like you go through hell to get to heaven. So everything rides on what the Knicks do on draft night in this case.
Yep.
And I think that's the thing that we have to remember, because if the Knicks walk out of this year with a top 5 pick, then people are going to say this year sucked, but we got through it. Look at what we can say. We got RJ Barrett, we got Mitchell Robinson, we have this player that we drafted, and all these other Cam Reddish, Emmanuel Quickley, Obi Toppin. You can so easily convince yourself that things are going to be in the right direction.
What would be the funniest thing?
What's that?
Is if they played the kids down the stretch and started winning games.
But that's the thing. And that is my concern, right?
With Derrick Rose a point guard. Yeah.
There you go.
Because people want to say it's a win-win situation. If the kids lose, you get a draft pick. If the kids win, then you do well.
The kids win.
What happens if the kids win and they're doing well? And then people are like, wait, but hold on. I actually liked the fact that they were losing games because of draft.
I think people would be happy. I think
I would be happy. I'd rather watch that than watch. If we're going to watch meaningless basketball, at least have it be somewhat meaningful with the young players.
Sure.
But
anyway, all this is to say, yes, please get a good draft pick. The rest of the season should be at least with again, play the kids. If you win some games, you win some games. If not, you don't. But they're not going to do this multi-year tank deal.
Can I read a tweet and you guess who sent it out?
Sure.
Okay. So this is a report or rumor. Mavs called about sending KP back, asked for Obi, Burks, and Noel. Who do you think sent that out?
Was it Robert Randolph?
Robert Randolph. Exclusive.
It's great for him. Hush Zoo, also get Mo Bamba for RJ. I would love that.
To be clear, not saying in exchange for, right? Like acquiring Mo Bamba.
That's what he meant to help.
Right. Yeah. The one thing I'll say about Mo Bamba that we didn't get to discuss yesterday was Mo Bamba's cap hold is going to be $22 million. So if your goal is to go over the cap, it makes sense to have him. But if it's not, and you're trying to create cap space, then you basically have to come to an agreement with Mo Bamba and then whatever is the difference between, the amount of money you have to spend and what he'd agreed to, that's the carved out amount you have. So the advantage of keeping Mitch is his low cap hold. And then you can always, if you wanted to, you could keep him. You could figure out a way to get rid of him. You could do whatever it is. But but that's the tricky part with Bamba.
Okay. Danny Gardner with another comment. The front office was in a tough spot, but drafting Obi over Halliburton and some of their free agent decisions have left a lot to be desired. Absolutely fair. We don't really talk about, or some people talk about it more than others. We haven't spent a lot of time on Obi over Halliburton at this point. If you're grading,
Dallas.
Whoa!
Spencer
Wait a second.
Dinwiddie.
Hold on. Let's think about this. If the Mavs are acquiring Spencer Dinwiddie, what does this mean for Jalen Brunson? I'm just thinking. That's where my mind is going.
That's a great call.
Wow. Or are they sending Tim? They must be sending Tim Hardaway Jr.
The Mavericks are trading Kristaps.
Oh my god!
Oh,
never mind.
Another KP. So Robert Randolph was right. They are trying to trade Kristaps Porzingis.
Oh man!
Oh, Bradley Beal is somewhere saying these are not the droids you're looking for. Oh my god!
Whoa.
Okay,
that's
Bradley
did we just win the Kristaps Porzingis trade?
I don't fucking know. I mean, shit.
They traded him too. Okay,
I'm stunned. But he wasn't playing. He was not playing.
Dinwiddie's been atrocious.
I know that. That's how bad Dinwiddie has been. That it's trading Kristaps Porzingis, who has missed 20 games this season, to oh my god. Well. Do you think that the other insurrectionists will never mind? I'm not gonna...
Listen. Again, Knicks fans, if you want to at least have some perspective, there's not making trades, and then there's making bad trades. And you kind of had, if you're Dallas, you got to draft. God bless you. You got to draft, and you made a trade to get him. A generational star. I think he's a generational star, but your mileage may vary on Luka. And a
package centered on Spencer Dinwiddie.
Wow.
The phrasing of that is, to me,
and you now have Spencer Dinwiddie.
KP. He's back on the East Coast where he wanted to be. There you go.
Porzingis.
Berman. Shut.
What did he say?
Porzingis is back east for Dinwiddie. Dallas now can trade Jalen Brunson with more ease.
I want to get to some of these. I want to get to some of these other super chats. Okay, so Danny Gardner. Let me just finish reading his comment. Yes, I agree. Obi over Halliburton would have been the right, or was the wrong move. If you wanted to win this season, DeMar was the move. Yes, you're right. DeMar would have been a better move. Would DeMar DeRozan have made this next season great or even good? He would have made it better. He would have made it better. That's
what is better in this context, right?
Yeah. Again,
we're talking about a then what would be a lower ceiling team that's maybe fighting for the top part of the play-in spot.
Yeah, because
if they don't
do
well,
does adding DeRozan make Randall suddenly become a better player? Okay, so wait, hold on. Oh wait, no, what?
What do you use words?
So it's Dinwiddie and Bertans, who is considered one of the worst contracts in the league.
But for Porzingis, another one of the worst contracts in the league.
Yeah, but that's the thing is he was not. I mean, I know he wasn't shooting well, but man,
that's.
All right, let's keep going to some of the more of these chats because I don't want to let them pile up too much. James Stanzioni, Leon can never just take a risk, only margin moves. Yeah, he hasn't taken a big risk. I agree. We'll see if it pays off. Danny Gardner again. I think Tibbs is a great coach with a high floor, but I'm starting to come around to the idea that he does not have a high enough ceiling to be the guy. I said as much in my debate with Jeremy over the weekend. I don't disagree with that. Although, has he ever coached a team really capable of winning a championship? Early Bulls years, and that's about it. What is this?
Did Mark Cuban just want someone to talk crypto with?
My God. Kenny Rose. Can't see them playing RJ with Randall beyond this year. A clue will be how much Obi plays. The Knicks need to see a lot of Obi, Reddish, and Deuce now. No disagreement there. Okay, this from Mark Stein. Dallas has spent this entire deadline day trying to find a home for Porzingis' considerable contract, league sources say. And they have struck a deal with the Wizards. Okay, that's good.
Bertans in the deal, as you said, but the Mavs are sending a second-round pick to the Wizards. So.
Wow.
Yeah. But this is what I'm trying to figure out now, right? Because you've just traded, if you are the Mavs, right? You've traded for Spencer Dinwiddie, who's on a really rough contract. You've taken on Davis Bertans, who is on an equally rough contract. You have the same money. You're just you're bringing guys in and diversifying it a little bit. So it's like, point guard and a forward as well. And you're taking away Kristaps, but like that doesn't really help you financially unless you're willing to go deep into the.
I just think I think they wanted to get him out of there.
Get rid of. Yeah, but I mean, like that is a really rough.
I mean,
deal.
look.
I understand, but we went through it. I get it. What it's like to get rid of Kristaps Porzingis.
Maybe. I don't know. I think Doncic is so good that maybe those guys look good with him. I don't know. It's just very interesting.
Work it off with a funny comment. The only two Latvian players in the NBA get traded for each other.
All right. Kevin Danishevsky, was I the only one who really wanted to get that Reddish deal done? I wanted to get it done because it would have created an easier path to Jalen Brunson. Getting rid of our vets and we get picks, we definitely get to see the rooks. I don't care about Cam. Yeah, I don't care about Cam either. The weirdest thing.
It's so bizarre.
I don't get it.
The guy was acquired for a protected first round pick in Kevin Knox. Yeah. And it's suddenly like this idea where it's like people say, okay, yeah, no Knicks should be untouchable. And then there's this subset that's like the idea of Cam being in a trade is blasphemous. I don't get it. Yeah. Like in that scenario, the idea was the Knicks are getting a first round pick back and at least 2 seconds, and arguably that they were haggling for those 2 seconds to turn into a first.
It was
like,
yeah,
if you can get rid of the picks, if you can clear money and still get an additional first back and you get another first and then Cam is, so that's all of a wash. Like, I don't know why that wouldn't be desirable. It's off the table, so it doesn't matter. But I couldn't believe how this guy who's been on the team for 3 weeks and barely played
and has looked bad.
He's become a martyr. That's all it is. He's become a martyr. And it's crazy to me. But
James Stanzoni, sorry I'm mad. I bought 13 tickets this year. Joke's on me. Yes, it is. Haha. James Dolan's laughing all the way to the bank. Sam L. Love John, Andrew, Jeremy, Chris, Benji, and all of KFS. Thank you for all your hard work. Thank you. I appreciate that. We appreciate that. Can you talk about Yusuf Nurkic as a trade target?
Well, look at Portland. Look at what they've done, right? They've only wanted expiring contracts and Josh Hart.
Yep.
So
we don't
really have that. So there's not really a way for them to go about doing it. Unless it's a 3-team deal, but I don't think
I don't see it. I Enjoy Peace asks, is that Mo Bamba scenario you guys referenced yesterday still possible? Potentially sending Mitch to Dallas for Brunson. Look, I have no idea. I mean, can they send Mitch to? Well, actually, Dallas has an opening at the center spot.
This is true. They do.
I mean, so one guy that I've had my eye on all day is Rashawn Holmes, who's now apparently going to be relegated to 12 backup center minutes. A game. He's a really good center. Can somebody get him? I don't know. I don't know. We'll see what happens. Danny Gardner, Danny, thank you. You've been incredibly generous today. I really appreciate it, man. And you're always so insightful on the halftime Zooms too, which is very nice also. I'm not saying you have to do something crazy now, but this front office will have to take a risk at some point. 1,000%. Of course. Yes. They didn't want to trade up. They don't want to make trades now. You have to break some eggs to make an omelet. Yeah, they've been. And here's the other part. I'll try a food analogy. If you don't break the eggs eventually, the eggs are gonna go stale, and then you have to throw the eggs out. And like the pick that they traded for Cam, that they've now traded for, or that they haven't traded Cam for anything yet. That they might like. You're exchanging one egg for a slightly fresher egg, but it's like this only gets you so far.
Bobby Marks just tweeted about how this is insurance policy for Jalen Brunson, which with Dinwiddie being the guy. Here's the other thought. Goran Dragic is going to be bought out. I wonder if Dallas thought they would be in the lead. And the idea now that Dragic has been traded to another team, he's actually eligible to sign back with Miami. So what are the odds of Dragic going to Miami? Dallas saying we need to bolster up here. Hopefully we get Jalen Brunson to resign this offseason, but we're going to load up and deal with it then. That's, I think, the line.
I got to be honest. I always thought Dragic was going to end up back in Miami. He's living there right now. So.
But he had to be traded to another team in order for that to happen.
I'm agreeing. Yeah. I always thought that even if the Knicks trade had happened, like we saw this morning, my thought was like, oh, so they'll buy him out, and this is to open up a spot so they can put Cam in the rotation more than it is we got Dragic on the team. Because, again, he's working out at the Heat facility right now. He never went to Canada. He just wanted to, like, formally stay in Miami while they look for a landing spot for him, which they did.
Juanon says, told you guys nothing was coming. Robert Randolph strikes again. Thanks for the content, fellas. Anytime. It's our pleasure. This is therapy for us, like I always say. Stevens Guillaume, F it. Kemba, oh God. We're not there yet. We're not there yet, Stevens. F it.
Is it the B word?
Yeah. No, it's Kemba, Evan, Noel, Burks.
No.
No, that's even worse.
No,
I thought it was buyout. No.
For the pod, if we talked over that, the comment is F it. Kemba, no, Evan, Noel, Burks for Westbrook. No. You want to talk about unwatchable?
I would actually quit. I would quit KFC.
No, you're at a major outlet right now. Stop it.
I'm kidding. I'm not going to. That's the beauty of it. They're not going to do it, so I'm not going to.
No, they're not going to.
It's inside. It's not inside, John, but Jeremy gets the reference. I know he does.
That's all that matters.
There you go.
Fern Rodriguez says, "When is the Bronny draft?"
Oh, we're
time to
there.
start planning.
Oh,
actually, no.
We here.
The one you want to look at is DeJuan Wagner's kid. That he's coming down the pike sooner. You want to talk about a guy that's been destined to play for Leon Rose since literally the day he was born. It's DeJuan Wagner's.
But the whole thing with Bronny was that LeBron comes attached to it. And I don't think that anyone's looking for DeJuan Wagner Senior to come play for the Knicks.
Okay, here we
LeBron. I swear. No, just like he's 38. He's gonna be 30. He's 37 years old, and here we are. Like when his kid's eligible in 3 years to be drafted.
Hey, listen.
I think it's less than that. I think it might actually be the 2023 draft.
Yeah. So the Bronny draft is 2023, and we're like, can we get 40-year-old LeBron to come with him?
I enjoy peace. Thank you for this. 500 likes for the KP trade. What are we at? How many far? We're at 171 likes.
By the way,
I have a feeling today's
1,100 people watching in the chat right now. You guys are incredible.
Christmas. Thank you. If you want to hit the like button, we appreciate it. It helps. I guess the more you like it, the more people see this or whatever.
Yes.
Yeah. So there you go.
That's the algorithm. Yes.
Okay. On and on we go as we are now 12 minutes away.
Yeah. They're gonna do nothing. They're gonna do nothing. Are you kidding me?
Nothing. Hush Zoo, is Alec Burks unmovable? Can we not get a second? Again, I don't think it's that he's unmovable. I think no one is what. And look, to push back on something I've said in terms of like just get him off the team for anything. Will Alec Burks have more value this summer than he has right now? Yes. Almost unequivocally, yes. Because there will be some team that misses out on something that will give up a little bit more to get him because he's a good player at that point, an expiring contract. And by the way, he may fit even more into their plans next year than he does right now, which is why a lot of the rest of the season, I don't want to be able to give a grade. I don't think we're going to be able to give a grade on the trade deadline until we see what they do with the rotation down the stretch, who plays, who doesn't play, and go from there. Okay. Let's make sure I didn't miss anything. Okay, hold on. I'm just scrolling back up.
I still can't get over this KP trade.
I can't.
Yeah.
Like,
so Fern Rodriguez also asks, who's got Dallas's pick next year, which is one Luka injury away from a top lottery pick now, asking for a friend. It is top 10 protected. So, but you know what though?
Maybe they do it. Maybe they unprotect it. You never know. Like if there's a sign and trade that involves Brunson and the Mavs feel like they have something they can use with those contracts and picks and build around Luka to the best of it. You never know. But no, right now the sweet spot is 11, 12, 13, 14. That would be great.
That would be a very sweet spot.
Oh,
Good comment there.
Robert
Randolph.
Randolph. Yeah. Knicks
What did he say?
move being announced in next 10 minutes. They're not doing anything.
They're not all right.
Officially.
Shut it
We
down.
should sign off if
Shut
you
it
want.
down.
Thanks for watching, everybody.
What a fucking clown show. Kevin Danishevsky. At least Better Call Saul season 6 was announced. Yeah, I've never watched a minute of that.
Was
show.
it really?
Great. It's so good.
Yeah.
No, as a lawyer, a former lawyer, you should definitely be watching that show. Although maybe it's too real.
Maybe.
It's personal injury to an
I was
extent.
thinking it too.
Yeah. Slippery business.
Sean Ford, KP to Washington for Dinwiddie Bertans. Does this open the chance of trading Mitch for Jalen? I pray. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't see it now. Not now.
Tim McMahon just reported that Dallas is optimistic that they'll be able to resign Brunson, but this is looked at as an insurance policy, which means that they're still holding out hope that they can re-sign him.
But I got to be honest. I just a lot of those tweets. I'm sure. I don't want to say anything that's shameful, but I feel like a lot of it has been fed, and feels like,
of course,
that's just he's going to sell it. He's going to sell it. He's deep into working with the Mavs and has covered them very well. And
Fair.
Again, like, what else can you say? Because then when you lose Brunson, he did the same thing right earlier. Where it was like the hope is that he wants to stay and build a winner, and he's willing, he wants to get paid, but that's important. And it's the way that you can kind of sling mud at him on the way out if he decides to leave.
Yeah.
So they're just creating a path to then say, well, this is on him. He wanted to go. This has nothing to do with us.
Kenneth Antigua. I don't see a comment here, but thank you for the contribution. Nathan Fellaine, I hope I pronounced that correct. Have you heard any rumblings about what's keeping Deuce off the court? Are there attitude issues? No, the opposite. Tibbs has been talking him up. Tibbs has given the young guys time when he's desperate. If they work hard and play D, that's Deuce's MO. I just think it's a positional thing. They are more comfortable, running Burks and Quickly out there as the point guards. There was more of a need for Grimes. That's why I think Grimes. Now, I think they think Grimes is better than Deuce. They drafted Grimes at 25. They drafted Deuce at 36. I guess what I'm more curious about is, like, I would like at some point I do want to go back and watch the time that he got and really try to analyze that again, because I don't know. It didn't. I don't know. I didn't think he was as bad as maybe it would seem he would have had to have been for him to just be pulled and not given a little bit more rope. All right. I think are we oh no, we're not caught up.
We have 7 minutes.
Two more.
7 minutes. Okay. Yeah, 2 more. Jessica, what's going on, Jessica? Good to see you. My trade dead pun is coming to fruition. Yes, it is. Sadly, not necessarily happy about being right. There's still time for this to be wrong. Fingers crossed. Let's go Knicks. Yeah. 7 minutes.
Not in heaven.
Well done.
Thanks. It's a joke I wish I didn't have to make, because they would have traded for someone.
Somebody.
We would have.
There you go. Adebambo, Adojiboy. I hope I got that right. Has at least the Knicks sign these guys to tradable contracts been proven to be a myth? Yes. Although I think it was more tradable, like they'll be fine to package for in a star trade. Again, like I said at the top of the show, I don't think they ever intended to be in this position. Obviously, they didn't intend to be in this position. I don't think they anticipated being in this position.
Here is the hope, because basically, unless something changes, we're looking at all of these players staying, right? Look at how much we are seeing movement-wise of players on expiring contracts. Mm-hmm. Look at the free agent market and how bare it is. That is what you're selling to teams. You're basically saying, look, like, we can give you Alec Burks. It will still cost you, though. but it's, like it's a way for him to be on that expiring contract if they want it, because he's got the team option afterwards. Same thing with Nerlens Noel. Do you want Nerlens Noel? You can only have him for a year if that's what you want, or you could have him for 2 years versus do you want him for 2 or do you want him for 3? Again, these contracts weren't built to necessarily be traded mid-season.
Not this.
That is the thing, right? It's the difference would have been if the Knicks were playing better, the value of these players would be higher. The value isn't higher, so it's harder to sell. That's the bottom line. And hopefully this summer they can be able to engineer more and do what they can. But like, this is unfortunately a byproduct of what we're seeing on the court.
Robin McGinley, not saying make moves that jeopardize our future, but as a fan, I'm so tired of acting like inaction is somehow a positive thing. This has been years of us waiting for nothing. Sorry, just frustration. You don't have to apologize for that. There's nothing to be sorry about. I think the only context necessary is that it is Leon Rose's second trade deadline. Just after, he had 2 summers, he's had 2 trade deadlines, he's had 2 drafts. Like, he has now gone through 2 full years of the cycle. So I get it. I just want to be very clear in case I haven't been clear enough. I don't want to watch any of these fucking veterans play another minute of basketball for this team this year. I have no desire for that whatsoever. I am at least I can appreciate the safety first aspect of it all, but it still sucks. It absolutely sucks.
It does.
And then Matthew Bottiglieri, doesn't the Mavs deal now mean that perhaps we deal for Brunson before the deadline? Please. I'm sure the Mavs have talked themselves into that we can win a championship now with this roster. Is what I would bet. Jeremy, what do you think?
What are you selling to Luka Doncic? Hey, the guy who has been the second best player on the team, we traded him for what, right? Is it Mitchell Robinson? Okay. But as Knicks fans, then now the team doesn't have a center that you feel like you can build around. Is it a future pick? Well, what was the opportunity cost of that? Because you could have used that down the line for like that star that we're talking about that we hope can be on the team on opening out of 2023-2024 season. It's biding your time, and you hope that this summer is when you start to see some of the dividends, right? Because again, like I said earlier, there's a very easy way to spin the direction of the Knicks this summer. It's really simple on how you can do it. The problem is that right now, when you're in the middle of the jungle, you're just lost. Everything feels awful. And how do you get around that? Well, in this case, it would be playing the younger guys, be seeing more minutes. That's ideally what they have to do. And
get a good pick and nail the pick.
Yeah.
I have to say it. Don't pass on Halliburton for Obi Toppin again.
Yes. They could have picked Halliburton regardless of the fact that he orchestrated his fall to Sacramento. They had full autonomy to do that. The fact is, he still did figure out a way to crash his stock. That, again, I'm not excusing them from picking him. If they thought he was the best prospect, they wanted to pick him, they should have done it 100%. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I think there's a little bit of revisionist history. He wanted to go to Sacramento, and the irony is he is no longer in Sacramento. Just the nature of it.
Juanon says, let's get Randall to the Mavs rumors started, fellas. That'd be fun. D Zella, can Jeremy help explain what to do if the continuous soup, continuous, it may be conscientious too. The soup has become self-aware. If the continuous soup spoils, great content. Thanks KFS team for giving us an experience at this deadline. I mean, I'm sorry, it's not the experience anybody wanted. Jeremy, you want to try to answer that?
I mean, in terms of spoiling, like trading for Westbrook would have been spoiling continuous soup.
That would be taking the soup and taking a shit in it and then eating it.
Lovely. It's lunchtime somewhere, but yes, and might even be breakfast or dinner in other places. But yes, that would be like wrecking it. Right now, it's, because I guess here's the thing. The Knicks are probably going to be operating as an over the cap team, which was my preference. It's a little bit harder to get Jalen Brunson if that is their target. We'll see if that's the way they go.
Dallas has to play ball.
At least Dallas, but it also means that another team might have to as well. You might have to do a 3-team deal instead.
Yeah. Michael Aaron says,
"Oh my!" Daniel Tice goes back to the Celtics, and Houston is off the board in terms of the teams that have.
So how many teams left?
Teams.
Oh, and it's 3:00. All right.
Oh,
there you
some
go.
deals
Let's
trickle
see.
in.
Let's
Yeah,
go.
let's hope.
Like 10 minutes to see if a deal gets made.
Michael Aaron, please add a Patreon tier with a reward of Jeremy's joke of the day. He's got some real bangers. You do have some bangers.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, this is kind of a dud.
3:00.
I got nothing.
They did nothing.
Well, you know who else has nothing?
Hold up.
The New York
Leon
Knicks.
Rose?
Oh, the Celtics are trading
Schroeder.
Dennis Schroeder for Daniel Tice.
Interesting.
Wow.
Why?
Wow,
That
they
is a good
traded
question for
Richardson and they traded Schroeder.
Yeah, but why Schroeder?
That's-
I guess they
that's
really
the
didn't
thing.
want Schroeder.
Well, also from Houston's perspective, right? Like, what exactly are you doing? Like Schroeder, like you'd think Schroeder makes you a little bit better, a little bit, not a ton, but a little bit enough where if you're in the race to tank, why you would necessarily do that, right? Like, couldn't you just have DJ Augustin,
It's just a
or
confusing
Kevin
trade.
Porter Jr. be the guy to run your offense?
Yeah.
Maybe there's another piece to this. It just doesn't make a ton of sense to me from Houston's perspective. But
This is odd.
Yeah.
This is odd.
Especially for a team that, like as we've been tracking lately, is on the rise. Boston's won 6 or 7 in a row, and they have the best net rating in the Eastern Conference, and they're kind of blowing up their bench.
Well, I understand them trading for Schroeder. It's more, and I guess I understand Tice as well. They really have been starved for good backup bigs, but Boston sending.
It's just
more same thing.
Same thing.
Interesting.
I don't really. Interesting is the right word for it. I don't really get it. Okay. Make sure I didn't miss anything here. No, I don't think so. Okay. If I missed anything, let me know, Andrew. I'm pretty sure it's just the two that just came in. Greg Film Stuff. What's going on, Greg? Always good to hear from you. Not mad at New York standing pat, especially hearing that RJ's in a walking boot, which frees up Reddish minutes. But Tibbs in the front office needs to get on the same page. Yeah, agreed. I mean, there were those reports out there that they may not be as much on the same page. Here's a good question. Does today's inaction, could this be seen as like not a win for Tibbs, but I don't know that they're not trading that vets for nothing? Maybe.
I don't think so.
Like that.
I don't think it's a win for Tibbs because now he's still stuck in the same spot he was before, which is juggling rotation pieces and not playing the younger guys. And so you've got one section of people, which is primarily like a very small group that is probably saying like, no, just keep pushing. You can get there, keep trying it. And you've got a lot more people who are saying, just please, for the love of God, let's turn a new leaf to the next year. Let's just sim to the end of this season if we can. And like, let's just do what we can to make
sim. I like seeing the kids play.
Right. Yeah. But I'm saying it's just like, if they're not going to just throw the season in the garbage.
They better. Because you keep losing and then you're going to play these same guys. Well, and we'll have the conversation shortly about, okay. Jeremy Grant remains with the Detroit Pistons as the NBA trade deadline ends.
We're at 13 minutes now, by the way, Robert Randolph. Grant
and Robert Randolph. Grant and the Pistons have comfortability with each other moving forward. Okay. And Jersey's, hold on, where'd it go? Jersey's own. Hope we don't play the old heads for the next 27. I don't want them to play the old heads again, to me at this point.
Whoa, what?
Enes Freedom and Bruno Fernando are in the deal. Oh man. Enes Freedom gets to hang out with Ted Cruz.
That's the thing. He gets to go to Texas. That might actually be the best thing for him.
Yeah. He might actually make the CPAC tournament conference.
Oh, wow. There we go.
No, he's scheduled to speak. He's supposed to be there.
I've covered CPAC before when it was in DC. Shout out my alma mater. Yeah.
Very left-leaning alma mater.
Yes, my very left-leaning alma mater. Yeah.
I don't want to see the old heads for 27. I'll take a few more games of them, but at some point, got to move on. Zach Smith, what's going on, Zach? Keep your heads up, guys. Appreciate all that you've done and keep doing. Thank you. We appreciate that. Knicks are still better than we were prior to Tibbs and Leon. We are on the up. Look, we believe that. I'm not sure that that's going to be a popular sentiment amongst much of the fan base.
There's a spin for it, though. There are more people that I think are going to be on this team when they're good than there were in 2019.
Sure,
100%.
Yeah. Also, like, I think we talked about this last week, John. We're now arguing about or upset about basketball things. We're not upset about culture things. I'm not worried about if Dolan's going to ban a fan. I'm not worried about if they're going to escort a lifelong legend. I'm not worried about who we're going to get in the offseason. I'm reading every rumor and alert.
No Lakers trades, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
So the Lakers are done. I'm just saying they probably took a gigantic step forward last year and took one step back, but they're still side. Like it's a side to side move. Progress isn't linear. So you can have a sidestep year, which has been frustrating, but the future is still bright, I believe. Whereas today is not the day that you want to say that or want to hear that, but
the future may
still
be bright
basketball,
today,
which is frustrating.
Today sucks.
Yeah,
future may be bright. Today sucks.
And you know what? I don't usually advocate for this because I don't think that there's really anything that needs to be said. I think the decisions often speak for themselves. It would be nice. It would be nice if today we heard from Leon Rose.
Yes, 100%.
If we had some sort of like right now, right? I'm looking at this and I feel directionless. And I don't mean for this to come off as vain, but I feel like if I don't totally understand the direction, that a lot of other people are going to be confused. And I think that it would be a really good gesture if there was accountability just for today of saying, like, this is what we tried. Give me your questions. But it's unlikely to happen because of just the way that media requests work with this team. And I think that that's the other thing. When things go well, you don't really need to hear from these guys. When things don't go the way you want, you'd like to hear. And today I'd like to hear. We'll get through this day. It'll be fine. Hopefully we see the necessary changes. But, if there's no action, at least let there be words.
I'm not going to say they needed to do something, but
they might have.
It's not a bad look. Or sorry, it's not a good
look. Yeah.
It's not a good look.
They brought new ingredients into the kitchen and then they failed to take out the old ones. That's not good. It's just not. Again, it's nothing disastrous, but we can't just say nothing disastrous is fine. You have to also take a step forward. Right now, it's moving side to side.
Woj just reported it officially.
What?
No deals for Knicks. Sources tell ESPN. So it is official. They did nothing.
No deals
at the deadline.
There you go. Okay, then. Well,
all right.
Shall we read our next comment?
Go ahead.
Hush Zoo. Well, cheers to y'all. Another half of Knicks basketball. Cam DMPs. A week of Knicks Twitter on fire. Tibbs playing the vets 40 minutes a game. Gonna wait for Beggs to say the Knicks front office like where the team is at. I mean, look, they could say whatever the fuck they want. The team is not in a good place.
They're easy fixes just down the stretch. Couple things they can do. Really not that hard.
But the team is not in a good place, and they don't like where they're at. And you know how we know they don't like where they're at? Because they tried to trade everybody.
Whole roster available. Yeah.
Jason M. Do you guys think Tibbs blocked a Burks trade? No, I don't block the Burks trade. I think Leon Rose is scared of Tibbs. How does the Cam trade look now? Total failure by the front office. I mean, you can't say the Cam trade's a failure until you. Well, you know what? I'll say this: the fact that they were shopping him, unless, what, the Berman tweet?
Yeah.
According to a source, Kemba Walker is safe for now as the Knicks don't make a trade. The Knicks have one roster spot still open because they didn't re-sign Ryan Arcidiacono and can be a player in the buyout market. Well, that's not what anybody fucking wants to hear.
I think Ryan Arcidiacono wants to hear it. If he even makes it to this team again. But
yeah. The fact that they shopped Cam, and it sounds like, I mean, it's like the fact that they shopped Cam in and of itself, I do think is maybe not an indictment on the trade, but it is certainly worrisome. And it is worrisome from the perspective of, like, you saw enough of the guy. Like, again, there's no question about his talent. Atlanta said it on the way out. Like, the coach was like, I wouldn't be surprised if he's Paul George in a couple of years. So that means to me that you maybe didn't do enough intel on Cam Reddish, the person, Cam Reddish's priorities, Cam Reddish, like how he goes about his business, Cam Reddish, the practice player, especially since you have a coach who repeatedly says practice, practice, practice. It's all about practice. So yeah, that's concerning. I am not willing to say that the trade is a failure yet. May wind up being a failure. I'm not going to say that yet.
Here's my question. How would you have felt if the Cam Reddish trade weren't done when it was, but instead were executed today?
Well, but that'd be different.
It would be different. That's also my point.
Well, I'd be fine with it.
But right. So the Knicks did make a trade. I'm not excusing it. This is not an excuse. I'm just saying that the reason why things feel worse, yes, you brought in Cam Reddish, you didn't clear anyone out. But it's also like, look at what we've seen these last few weeks where you brought Cam Reddish in and you've done nothing with him. And I think that you could argue the Knicks shot themselves in the foot a bit by bringing in Cam Reddish now. Then, if they had done it now, then you could maybe sell yourself on like, okay, well, that's less time, because Kevin Knox wasn't going to do anything. It was just a matter of time. And if the Lakers were only offering 2 second-round picks, then you wonder what's the urgency. I'm just putting it out there as like, maybe we would be thinking about it differently if that trade lined up now versus when it actually did.
But
the only caveat being, like you said, Jeremy, that they didn't clear a spot for him. But if we see Cam in the starting lineup or Cam play 30 minutes tonight, then that's okay. Like, trade deadline passed. We tried to clear a spot for him. We couldn't. He's now part of the rotation.
Here's what I was like. Like, I'll say the trade deadline gets an incomplete for now, but an incomplete, like, so the way it works in school is like, if you get an incomplete, it means you really have turned in nothing, and you may be able to change that incomplete to a grade. It's not going to be a good grade. So like the best that they could get, the best grade they could get for like this season as a whole is going to be like a C+ or a C- or C.
The season itself, again, it all depends on what the last bit is in terms of the young players. If the season then turns into something really great in the lottery,
if these
and the draft,
come
to
out,
me, it's still a bad season, but you at least had a great draft. That's kind of, but you have to get one to get to the other. So
I'm not going to count this. Look, if the draft, we'll see. Dan Hidalgo, Leon Rose won't make bad moves, but is he trigger shy? Again, they don't take risks. That's very clear by now. If this front office has if you could characterize them as something, you can characterize them as risk averse.
They take risks. They're just calculated risks. Like Cam Reddish is a risk.
Very calculated.
They felt it's worth that first round pick. There will come a time where, Leon Rose has to make a move. It's like, when is that time right? Look at the Pelicans. David Griffin traded for CJ McCollum. And I know Knicks fans, there were some who wanted CJ McCollum. His numbers, they're actually pretty good. Yeah. And the thing about David Griffin is he needed to make that trade, because if he didn't, and the Pelicans didn't do well and take a step forward, he's probably going to be out of a job. I mean, this is his third coach that he's been on. Like, there has to be progress there, even without Zion. There was more urgency for other teams. That's the only difference. They do take risks.
Josh B says, I can't watch this roster for the next few months. I don't blame you if it's the roster that we've seen. I mean, again, if Kemba Kemba is going to start tonight. I could just tell you that right now. It's going to be painful. Hush Zoo. Perrin makes the front office look good. Change my mind. I can't. He's the only proven commodity in there. No, Brock Aller's a proven commodity. But again, Brock Aller is not a talent evaluator. Brock Aller is a numbers guy, and Brock Aller is able to work with. He's able to make magic happen on the margins. But Brock Aller can't. It's the talent guys in the room. Theoretically, are Scott Perry, Leon Rose, and Worldwide Wes. And anybody who's watched me before knows that I have absolutely zero faith in Scott Perry as a high-level basketball executive. I've never beat around that bush. And look, they brought in a guy in Rosas now. Was very highly thought of for a long time. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Lunas Emirat. Might lose my mind if 2+ vets aren't shut down soon. Again, very fair.
Yeah.
Matt 357. Thank you for the contribution. Daniel Shapiro.
Sorry, one thing.
Yes.
I've got news for you. If you're looking for the vets to get shut down, there's one that's coming back in Derrick Rose. And Derrick Rose needs to play, which is good for other players who are, but at the same time, it crowds the rotation even more. Like Derrick Rose is going to help players like Emmanuel Quickly, Obi Toppin, hopefully Cam Reddish as well. But then you're going to see an opportunity cost for some of these other guys. So, like, are you shutting down Evan Fournier? I don't think you are if he's healthy.
Can you imagine if Rose came back and by the time he came back, Walker was still starting and Rose was backing him up and Quickly
there it is.
Got like a DNP.
Mm-hmm.
I think if that happened, then Worldwide Wes would like tomahawk Tibbs. Like he might actually just end him if he starts getting DNPs. And I wouldn't blame him. I'd bail him out of jail. We would fundraise bail for
Super
Worldwide
Chat that
West
night goes to Worldwide West's bail.
Yeah. God.
Shout out to Worldwide West.
Here's the only thing I'm wondering. I'm just wondering aloud. What if they made the play-in? Like we're sitting here, we're talking about the season. Obviously, it's over with 27 games left. None of us think they're going to make the play-in, right? None of us think that. If they made the play-in, does it change this conversation at all, or does it actually make it? Is it like worse if they make the play-in?
I think what does making the play-in even really mean at this point, other than pride?
Okay, so that's another question. Is it dependent on like what they do in the play-in? If they get into the 10 seed or the 9 seed and they win it, and then let's just say they get into the playoffs.
You can look at it either way, right? You can look at it as like, wow, they had this incredible comeback and they did it like last year and this is great. Or you can look at it as like, cool. So you made the play-in. You're not going to really advance far in the playoffs. You had a golden opportunity to pick higher in the draft, which is where the talent typically lies. Like, what are you doing? That's why, again, this is now soon going to start turning into more of a wins turning into losses and losses turning into wins conversation, at least just the general discourse. Yep. And again, like, I don't want to ever be in the lottery again, right? But it's the sort of mindset where it's like, if you're going to do it and you're going to do it one last time, you might as well go big. You might as well play the younger players. I'm not saying tanking necessarily, right? Because again, what does tanking even mean? If you're playing veterans, you're not really going to be tanking. But that sort of thing where it's like you try to find a mix that works for you. And at the end of the day, you're still rising up and getting more lottery odds. And hopefully they look on in your favor. And if they don't, you trade up. That to me is how you can try to sell people. You're selling them on hope. You're not winning and there's not a ton of hope right now. So that like you have to sell one of the two at least.
I'm just saying. None. So right now, realistically, and then we'll keep going with the super chat. Detroit, Orlando, Houston, OKC, Indiana. I'm going to say those are gold plated like locks. Those are rock solid. Like you're not catching, quote unquote, catching those teams. They're 5.5 back of Indiana right now. After that, you got San Antonio, who you're 4 games again behind. I'm using behind in the reverse terminology. Sacramento is now trying to win. You're 4 games back of them. Portland trying to maybe lose, 2.5 games back of them. And then you got New Orleans clearly trying to win. You're 1.5 games back of them. I think realistically, you're looking at in the 6 to 8 range. If you shut everything down and you played exclusively the kids, I think could you get to 6? Yeah, you could get to 6. I think you could probably get to 6.
7's probably more likely, but I think there's a path.
Yeah,
to get to
6, 7, fine. That gives you either a 37% chance at the top 4 or a 32% chance at the top 4. So basically, and that's what you want. You want top 4. Okay. Is it top 4 or bust? No. We'll have time for draft talk, but like there's talent in this draft at like 6, 7, 8, 9. But like there's your opportunity cost, right? Right there. A third of a chance roughly at getting into the top 4. Versus making a run at the play-in, maybe getting in the play-in, maybe winning a game in the play-in.
And John, do you remember what good being the 7th best lottery odds did the last 2 years?
Are those the ones that jumped up?
They are.
Okay.
At least in the 3 years, 2 of the 3 were the ones I think that did it. So it's lucky number 7.
Even the Zion draft, like the Lakers jumped, the Pelicans jump, and Memphis jumped.
Yep.
Yeah,
it's a crapshoot.
Okay. Daniel Shapiro. Sorry, this took so long to get to. These issues can be tied to taking Obi over Halliburton because they didn't expect Randall's emergence. The lineup, Randall's money, no point guard, decreased Obi's value. All true. No disagreement to any of that.
Mm-hmm.
Hashtag free Obi. I enjoy peace. Need to hear from Leon. Agree with Jeremy. Thanks, guys. Thank you for the contribution, and I agree. We're not going to hear from him, by the way. Dan Hidalgo. Am I wrong to think the youth movement begins anyways, and the vets were only being played to maintain their trade value? I look. Here's the reason why that's not the case. You're not going to see Kemba Walker, Alec Burks, Nerlens Noel glued to the bench tonight. Might you see a slow transition out of those guys? Yes, maybe a rest day here, a rest day there, this, that, and the other thing. It's not going to be instant. So it's not like that was the only reason. Was it a part of the reason? I would imagine so. Yeah. Sean O'Rourke, what's going on, man? Whiffing on Frank and Knox continues to haunt this franchise. I mean, it's Donovan Mitchell and Pickett Bridges, or if you want to go the Shea Gilgeous-Alexander route, that's fine too. Right.
Is there any more to that? Because I actually have something that I've had brewing.
Real quick. Missing so badly on those picks has hurt us more than anything else in the last 5 years.
Yeah. So here's the thing, right? The Knicks before last year had 7 straight losing seasons, and then they made the playoffs, and now they're losing again, which would be 8 out of 9 years being losing years. Let's look at the pick situations, right? 2 of those years, the Knicks did not have a first-round pick. One was due to the Melo trade. The other was due to Bargnani. 2 of them were whiffs with Frank and Knox. So we're looking at Kristaps Porzingis, who was just traded for Spencer Dinwiddie and Davis Bertans. And then it's RJ Barrett. And then it's Obi Toppin and Emmanuel Quickley. If you look at the bigger trades that went down, they, for the most part, overwhelming most part, were guys that were drafted there or drafted and instantly traded, right? Like Domantas Sabonis. He wasn't drafted by the Pacers, but he went to Oklahoma City on draft day for Ibaka. And then he went to Indiana for Paul George. And where did Ibaka come from? He was a draft pick by OKC. Same thing with Paul George. He was a draft pick that Indiana hit on. And that is the point. The Knicks are playing catch up more than almost any other team. The other team I would say that is behind them is Dallas, because Dallas has hit on maybe 2 picks since 2000. And it had just happened in the same year with Luka Doncic and Jalen Brunson. So that's the problem, is that
made up for it pretty well.
Exactly. Like when we talk about point guards, when we talk about draft picks, we can say that the Knicks inactivity is a big problem, and it is, because it absolutely is, right? But we're also kind of putting our own years of baggage on a front office that has had only 1.5 years of work. And I think that's what we have to remember, is there is a separation. I'm not saying they haven't had time, right? But in year 1, they made the playoffs. No,
it's
in
a
year 2,
year
it's
and a
been
half.
a disappointment.
That's fair.
And right, because he started in March 1st of 2020, and then there was a pandemic. They couldn't really do anything.
It's the whole, but they've had 2 full cycles: free agency, draft, trade, free agency, draft, now trade. So
I understand. It's not an excuse. It's the point being is that he's absolutely correct, and that the Knicks have not been able to do much because of the fact that they have had nothing to work with from the year 2013, 2014, all the way through as recently as the 2018 first round. And that's a huge problem. And if what teams are successful when they can't have even one hit? You can say Kristaps Porzingis, but what did he bring back? Dennis Smith Jr., where not a good pick.
Well, I mean, that
2
was their
first-round picks, where one you've punted or one you punted then turned into Cam Reddish, essentially, whatever it is, however you want to say it, maybe it's going to grad, whatever. And then one that's coming up in the future. It's really hard to play catch up. And then you spend money to try to catch up, and then you get similar deals, circumstances like we're in right now. And it's just time. And that's why it's so important, like Rosas. The reason I think he's consulting as well is he did a really nice job with development, and not every pick was great, but he had some real success, finding guys that weren't just in the top of the lottery. it's manage. It's the margins, as John, you've said frequently. How do you do all of that? Right. Yeah. It's the margin moves. It's hitting on your draft picks, growing over time, and then boom. But that's why I just feel like when I hear, I'm not saying this is the case here, but right, like when I hear about, oh my God, the Knicks need a point guard. Yeah, they absolutely do. But we're not like, it's not like this front office has had 20 years, 15 years, however many years you want to say it, of not bringing in that guy.
Give him time. Parrish, Duggar, Tibbs won't coach the kids up. So what's the point? I mean, I think Tibbs has a type. We'll see what happens down the stretch. I know I keep saying it, but I don't really know how else to say it. We'll see what happens down the stretch because a lot of this is there's going to have more context, added to it as these games continue. Anthony C. So what happens when Derrick Rose comes back? Does Grimes get taken out of the rotation? Cam has no shot at being in it. Well, Grimes is not getting taken out of any rotation.
No.
Quentin Grimes is going to be playing lots of basketball moving forward. I think, all right, we could have a very quick rotation conversation now. I would say Nerlens, given his injury stuff, he'll be out at some point. He'll be shut down, and then you'll get, Sims, which again, that's fine. I don't really care about Jericho Sims that much. Fournier, I think, is the likeliest to continue playing, especially since he does have an extra couple of years on his contract or an extra year in his contract over the other guys. The big ones for me are Burks and Kemba, and really Kemba. It's really Kemba, right?
It's Kemba.
If we're really getting down to it, it's Kemba. And if they keep playing Kemba and if they keep trotting Kemba out there, I just get to the point where he turns from Kemba Walker into Kemba Walker's expiring contract and then move on from there. It did not work. It has not worked. It looks terrible. I mean, I was looking at the numbers the other day, or I think I wrote it in the newsletter. They've almost over 2/3 of their season, the 2/3 worth of the minutes of this season have been played without Kemba Walker. And they have a borderline top 10 net rating in those. Again, it's like 1,800 minutes or something like that. It hasn't worked. Just go move on. That's the big thing. I don't really have anything else.
I think it's fair. But here's the other factor, right? So we've seen 55 games. Tonight will be game 56. There will be 59 before the All-Star break. So quick math tells us 23 games down the stretch. How many of those games is Derrick Rose going to be logging significant minutes? How many back-to-backs are there? Seeing 1, 2,
yeah, but we shouldn't
3, 4.
We shouldn't even have why do we even there's an art.
But this is my point in that Derrick Rose will be back in the rotation, but he needs time to come back. He's not going to play in both of these games.
Yeah.
There will be minutes and opportunities. It's how Tibbs, does it. You could make the argument for tonight, for example, where I wouldn't be surprised if RJ is out until after the All-Star break and he comes back and
that's reasonable.
Enough time.
That's reasonable.
And then you could say, wow, well, it took RJ Barrett getting injured for the Knicks to actually do something with Cam Reddish. Yeah, it did. That sucks 100%. But if there's a silver lining to take from it, it's that hopefully Cam Reddish gets more minutes. And that's what people want, right? It's to see the younger guys. You want all of them, but RJ has been progressing to the point where it's cool. We know that he's getting there. We don't know a lot of that for some of the other players. It's good for them to get these minutes.
And the other part of it is Obi, who we haven't really mentioned, and obviously he's tied to Randall. And I would not be shocked if they shut down Randall at some point. Is that going to happen? I don't think that's. I think that's a last 10 games of the season type of thing. Myself, but we'll see.
It will be after they are eliminated from playoff contention, and because again, they still want to win, and there's still that Randall bonus. 65 games and making the playoffs. That's something he's going to strive for.
Yeah, and they're not going to.
They're not going to. If they tried to not give him money, that would look really bad.
That would look really
from
bad.
His perspective. So he'll keep playing until then.
Slacker Hero, 0 positive assets in all the guys they signed this offseason. Not a great sign, in my opinion, that they couldn't move off anyone without trading picks away. Again, I don't know. We don't know about Burks. I think we could feel pretty confident that none of the other guys were positive assets. But yeah, it's a bad sign. That's what we said last night. That's what we said to open the show today. My daughter's very upset about that. Dan Hidalgo, what's going on, Dan? Just a thank you for making the season bearable. I don't know that. I mean, Did we make the season bearable? I hope so. I appreciate
I hope
that
so.
regardless.
They're saying we did. Yeah.
Ian just tweeted out a little video about if the Spencer Dinwiddie trade makes it more likely that the Knicks may end up with Jalen Brunson this summer. And he says it's a matter of what Dallas is comfortable spending on Brunson. Because again, like right now, like here's the thing. They didn't clear space today, right? Does that mean like if they want Jalen Brunson, it is really what come down to what they want to pay Jalen Brunson, because if they have to include a second or something to move off of money to sign Brunson, then you're looking at it like we're trading for Jalen Brunson, right? That's essentially what it becomes. So I think the reason why they may not have been willing to do that today and why they may be waiting for the offseason is because of a potential lack of certainty, right? Like they may, like unless Jalen Brunson has like flat out told them, I'm coming, but again, you never know. Shit happens.
Yeah, it does. And as I'm looking this up for just context of what's going on, for next year, right? The Mavs are going to want to retain a lot of these guys, but there's a bit of a problem, right? It's that there's a lot of money that they have to spend and luxury taxes and all of that.
And now you just got two contracts in Dinwiddie and Bertans that are arguably harder to move than Porzingis. David Hughes, when you say shut down the vets, I'm guessing Gibson and Walker, but what are you guys wanting Tibbs to do with Rose, Randall, Fournier, Burks, and Noel? So we just talked about that a little bit. Burks is another guy we should spend a minute on. After the All-Star break, I think that there's a good argument that either Burks or Fournier should take one of them should be out every game, because that's the only way that you are making time for Grimes and Cam, unless I've missed something. And then the guy that we haven't really mentioned is Deuce, because then if Rose comes back, are they going to, here's the other thing. If you shut down Walker, does Quickly go into the starting five? Does McBride go into the starting five? Does Rose go into the starting? Like, there's lots of different combinations and permutations, but again, it's not going to be like, all right, you're shut down for the season. I think it's going to be more selective rest days to start, and then they go from there. But again, it all starts with Walker. That's the big one. Sean Ford, here's what I'll say. The Knicks have to choose between Obi, Mitch, and Randall. These are three of our five best players. I don't know that I'd call Obi one of their five best players today. Maybe he is, maybe he's not. I don't know that we could say that, but maybe he is. All three certainly can't play together, and playing two together present issues. Need to decide. I don't know. What do you guys have any thoughts on that? I think it's okay to have a rotation. You can't start all three together. I think that's what you mean to say. But I think all three can be on the same team.
Yeah, I think so. But again, is the sort of thing that will work itself out over time.
Exactly. Yeah, you don't make a move to make a move because you're like these guys can't all be on the same. Like again, be opportunistic.
I'm gonna assume Sean meant three of our best front court players.
No, I think he meant three of our best five players.
So Obi Toppin's better than RJ Barrett after what we've seen this year.
No,
I'm not putting that on you guys.
No, three of our five best. So I think it is a reasonable stance to say that the Knicks' five best players are Randall, Mitch, RJ in some order, Rose,
Fournier.
Listen, if someone wanted to be like, I think Obi Toppin is better than Evan Fournier. Listen, I'm not going to sit here and vehemently argue otherwise.
I'm not going to vehemently argue otherwise either, because that's like the least entertaining argument in the history of arguments, maybe. But I like Obi's potential. Let's put some respect on RJ Barrett's name, please.
Oh, no, I don't think he was suggesting that.
That's why I'm reading it. I'm thinking it's more of a best front court player thing.
Bronx Boy 71. This season's issues are mostly on Tibbs. I would respectfully disagree. His offense hasn't used the vets well, and he doesn't want to play the kids because it takes a lot to coach young players. He has been awful. I would just say, go look at San Antonio. Go look at the minutes distributions in San Antonio. There's been a ton of nights this year where Devin Vassell isn't getting any time. Devin Vassell picked right by Obi Toppin, they're kind of outright tanking, and they're not playing the kids. Like, you're not gonna find a coach other than in a situation like Oklahoma City where they literally don't have any veterans on the team. You're not gonna find an NBA coach that's going to throw kids out there and let them all play. Other than David Fisdale, and he lost his job because nobody respected him for that very reason. I think it takes a lot to bring young players along. I don't think it necessarily takes a lot to, it does take some patience. I think Tibbs had a lot of patience with Obi Toppin last year. Myself, that's my 2 cents, but I'm sure people would disagree. And then as far as the offense, I mean, again, I think the offensive issues have more to do with personnel than coaching, but again, I'm sure there are people who disagree. Abe, Jeremy, kiss of death, saying the Knicks being able to move up because of what happens the last few years. Now we drop 4 spots. Thanks.
Probably. Yeah. But, again, if you're up higher, if you're 6th and you drop 4 spots to 10th, like, you can get back up there. It's a lot easier than going from even further back to up. But yeah, true. Probably. Listen, it's not like anything I've said in the past has helped the Knicks in the draft lottery. So.
Hush Jews says legit worried the vets are going to play the whole year. So annoyed. It's fair to be worried.
Mm-hmm.
It's fair to be worried.
There's legit no reason for Kemba to play there. I can't think of one. None whatsoever.
Yvonne Omar. Oh my goodness. I feel bad. Well, at least I have a lot of coffee left. Thank you, John, for the suggestion. This is coming from, oh my goodness. This is someone from like halfway around the world that is watching us. Shout out to you. And thank you to KFS for allowing an old man far away from being close to his beloved Knicks. Hashtag New York forever. I hope the coffee tastes good at least. That's all I'm going to say. I think it's like 3:30 in the morning where he is, or 4 in the. Yeah, it's a little after 3:30 in the morning. That's
shout out to you.
Dedication.
And everyone else who's
it's
watching
definitely
super
Yvonne.
early.
It's Yvonne, by the way. It's not Ivan.
Ivan. Did I say Yvonne?
Yeah, you're pronouncing it like one of the Congresswoman, Elon Omar. I think that's what you're doing. Am
I? That was not intentional.
Ivan or Yvonne, thank you for tuning in wherever you are right now.
Yes, we appreciate it. Jessica's back with some more. Thank you so much again, Jessica. She is definitely with me on not wanting to watch these vets play another minute. Jeremy's right. Leon should speak. He should speak. I want to say that very clearly. He should speak. Yep. Going to be more critical of Tibbs going forward, especially after RJ's injury. Let's go, kids. The RJ injury, again, I said it after the game. I'll say it again. It was an abomination that he was in the game.
Mm-hmm.
It was an absolute abomination. Especially since he took out vets, like he took out Randall and Fournier and someone else, like right before that. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, but you're like 3-4 point plays and another bucket away from time
There you go.
Winning.
I just wish he would have. I mean, he'll never do this, but I wish he would have owned it on the press conference and just be like, "That was my fault. I should have taken him out earlier." We're lucky it's not worse. Kevin Danishevsky says, "I know this is unlikely, but what happens if Kemba comes out with another player of the week type performance and Rose gets back? Do they take out Emmanuel quickly?" Look. First of all, Kemba's not.
Not gonna have to worry about that.
Not gonna have to worry about that.
Gotta give him another 27 days off before that can happen.
Man, is there?
It's actually just better for packaging him this summer. Like, hey, look at the guy who won Player of the Week twice last year.
How many players have done that?
Yeah.
They're not taken out quickly out of the rotation. I'd be shocked. Robert Cross, you think there's a possibility?
At this point, the way that Quickly's like our conversation on Sunday aside, like you're right. Quickly's been bad lately. And if another vet, not only a vet, but like the vet that Tibbs will be in his wedding, or if Tibbs has a wedding one day, Derrick Rose will be his best man.
Yeah.
Like Derrick Rose will play over Emmanuel Quickly if it's one or the other. And that's where, if you're going process by elimination, he took Dennis Smith Jr. out of rotation. He took Kevin Knox out of rotation. He took Deuce McBride out of the rotation. I'm not putting it past him to take Emmanuel Quickly, a struggling Emmanuel Quickly, out of the rotation, which I'm not saying I'm predicting it. I'm saying I don't take it off the table.
There's no reason for it. Robert Cross. Right now, I am on the rooftop of my building here in sunny San Diego. As a lifelong Knicks fan, tell me why I shouldn't jump. Hashtag 51 wins. Here's why you shouldn't jump. I think if you want to see the glass as half full, I think you want to still give credit to a front office that, while they have not had the best year, is competent and kind of knows what they're doing a little bit, learning on the fly. I think you want to look at a team that, Obi over Halliburton aside, seems to know what it's doing in the draft. And I think you want to look at RJ Barrett. I think you want to look at Quentin Grimes. I think you want to look at Mitchell Robinson. I think you want to look at, again, flexibility coming up. And then you want to look at, it's still New York. And you're going to start to see rumors, and I know people are sick and fucking tired of that because it's been rumors for 15 years, it feels like. We'll see if it's different this time. We'll see if the fact that the organization seems to at least have the respect of people around the league to a certain extent makes a difference. That's what you're hoping for.
Yeah. It's different.
Or ping pong balls.
Right. Or that. I mean, again, it's probably closer to the buildup to trading for Carmelo Anthony without it being that much of a haul for, you know what I mean? Like to me, that whole, the process was a bit more flawed. Learning from that, trying to navigate, because again, the biggest thing that I had that was of issue with trading with Carmelo Anthony, it's fine to trade some of the young players, it's fine to trade picks. Just make sure that the picks you're trading are, you've coverage. The Knicks now have coverage. They can find ways to create assets. And this summer, you hope that they can keep doing that. So stuck in the mud, you can get pulled out of it. It's really not quite as bad as it feels like right now. It definitely feels crappy, and it should.
It's never as bad as it feels.
But no, right, I mean, again,
in the moment,
half the roster is under the age of 24. Got more picks than you probably have ever had beforehand. I mean, other than the fact that they traded one of those picks for Cam Reddish.
And we'll
you
see
can
what
create
happens
them.
with
You
them.
can do things from there.
Ryan Huang, is there a good argument that trading away value to move off of a bad contract is a net value in the long run, which when it comes to developing the kids, you could play and develop the kids and shut guys down. I am never going to be a believer in trading a pick to get off a guy unless you absolutely have to. And they did not have to today. That's just bad business. That's Steve Mills stuff.
They did and they didn't. That's where I go back and forth on. Is it better to just get these players out of here so you can have time, or can you just take the more appropriate approach, which is just shut at least one of these players down, like shut Kemba Walker down? I don't like the idea of Alec Burks starting as point guard, but at least it opens up a spot at the wing where you have a bit more of a logjam. Like I'd be fine seeing Emmanuel quickly start. I'd be happy to see Deuce McBride start. There's going to be at least one or two murky situations at best.
Yep.
But at least solving one or two of the others, then you start to get somewhere and you see progress in other areas.
Andrew, what's up?
To Jeremy's point, all of the frustration today goes away if we see a lineup of like IQ, Grimes, Randall, Mitch, and RJ like consistently. Kemba and Burks get shut down, Noel gets shut down, and they do go toward more of a youth movement. And you could say, listen, the deals didn't work out, or the run we wanted to go on didn't work out, so we're gonna go in a different direction the second half of the year. But all of this goes away. The frustration, the fear that we're gonna be watching Kemba and Burks play 20 to 30 minutes a night. If they do that, it's just I do not have confidence that is what they're going to do.
You know it's going to be fun if they play the vets and they like win. Again,
well, let's think about I know we keep saying like think about last year, and this year is not last year, but
no, it's not.
Derrick Rose came back from COVID, and a week later was the beginning of the 9-game winning streak. Watch Derrick Rose come back, and it's more like exactly like 2014, where the Knicks went on that winning streak that made us think they were close to a playoff spot, and they missed it by one
look
game.
at Julius Randle, how well he's been doing.
Right.
It
Randle
is
quickly gets hot. Yeah.
It's like a macrocosm, if you want to use that, of the fake comeback. Right.
I mean, look, we could sit here and talk about if there's Rose didn't get hurt, then their record instead of being 24-31 is 28-27, something like that. I think that's reasonable to expect. It's not 28-27. It's 24-31. This is what it is. Hannibal Miles asks if we think they focus too much on looking for one trade to include Kemba Burks and Noel and ended up with nothing instead of focusing on trading one player, i.e. just getting rid of Kemba. If they had found a trade to trade all three of those guys in one trade,
probably would have done it.
Yeah, no, there was no trade out there that was realistic. It was always going to be, I think, two guys of those three, or maybe Fournier. I think the bigger part of confusion is like, okay, let's assume they couldn't find the trade with two of them. Was there no trade for Burks? That's the big one. I think that's the one that everybody coming away from today is like, you couldn't move Burks, you couldn't find a place to send Burks. Robert Cross is back. First time, long time, John. I'm impressed with the relative calm demeanor in this room. My Marvel equivalent is Bruce Banner. Hashtag Hulk smash, hashtag 51 wins. So this is like Bruce Banner now as opposed to the Hulk. Yeah. Maybe people are just tired from yelling and screaming the last few days. I don't know. Parish Duggar, Tibbs' DNA is to play vets means a top 6 draft pick. So you're saying playing vets
tank is essentially the way.
There you go. Maybe. Maybe that's why he's still there. What? Andrew, you think
just if that's the plan, then I'll hate watching it, but if it leads to like the 6 best lottery odds,
sign me up for the 6 best lottery odds. Manny Campos, kids need to play. Their value is artificially deflated because they only play 15 minutes. I think I'm not saying I buy into this, but there is an argument that less is more. When you have incomplete players and you run those players out there for 10, 15 minutes a night against backups and in situations where they're likely to succeed, I think there's an argument that and here's the other part of it. It's like, okay, well, if they can play 25 minutes and look good, well, theoretically, if they play 25, 30, 35 minutes and look good, they'd be helping your team. So do we think that they don't know a player who will help their team when they see it? Maybe, although Quentin Grimes played 30 minutes a night a lot, and they seem to be willing to do that. And we've seen everybody else kind of struggle when given more time. So I don't know. Okay. Matt from the land down under. Enjoy the stream. Hold on. His comment went away. I'm going to go get it again.
I got you. Glad you've been hitting the gym, Jeremy. You're about to put up MVP numbers with the cap or no caps you will make for next season.
Yeah, it'll crush me to death.
Yeah.
Either way.
Doing it all over again next year. There you go.
Giddy up. Dean Price says, Oregon KFS supporter. What's going on,
nice.
Dean? How you doing? Thanks for supporting us from afar. And will be in attendance on Saturday. I would say I hope you get to see a win, but I don't know if that's the priority anymore.
As someone who said 1 and 3, I hope for a win. So.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Maybe they win tonight.
Maybe.
Never know.
Sure.
With the Dallas moves, do y'all think that the Brunson dream is dead? No, the Brunson dream was never going to die today.
I'm honestly more encouraged based on the fact that they just did it for Spencer Dinwiddie.
Me too.
They were willing to trade Kristaps Porzingis to get Spencer Dinwiddie and Davis Bertans. I feel better about it. Yeah. I would have felt even better if the Knicks had cleared salary, but as we've talked, there are ways for them to do that. And that's something that we will absolutely be exploring come this offseason.
Forgotten NYC says, I am sad. We're all sad. Yeah. We're all sad. We're sad in multiple meanings of that word.
The main word in the chat has been a little Tom Brady today. They're deflated.
Deflated. So, yeah. It was deflating day. It's amazing how many of New York's trade deadline, free agency, draft have been deflating. So pretty much all of them since Leon came aboard.
I'd argue draft night got fun. I know they didn't make 19, they didn't make 21, but
I think there was a lot of anger.
It was deflated, but the moment you realized, they got a pick back for the guy they already wanted. And if you walked away with Grimes, Deuce, and Sims at 19, 21, and 34,
it's fair.
You would have been fine. You walked away with those 3 players with extra draft compensation.
I thought it was hilarious, so I had a really good time about it. Where it's like,
I was laughing my ass off.
Okay, and it's like 21. They're not picking again. That's great. So I have no problem with it. I thought it was fun.
Daniel Shapiro, is this something we were talking about before? If we knew they would properly adjust the roster to maximize youth and development in the back half, would we really care about a quiet deadline? No,
Not at all.
no, not at all. That would be responsible management. We'll see if they do it. Abdoulaye Diallo. It's not that deeper. It's not that deep. We're not paying to erase our mistakes. Play the kids more, get a high pick, keep Randall, and wait for a star while being decent. I mean, that's the front office's plan. I think.
Yeah.
Minus the play the kids part.
Well, we'll see.
We'll see. Yeah.
And listen, we talked about the fact that we think they will make a move at the right time for a star. Like, you could make an argument that not doing well this year gives them more ammo to get said star moving forward.
You could.
And that's the thing, right? Like, you give up less because you're getting more by accruing value with this pick. Like, that is something else you could probably sell people. But here's the thing, right? If you trade the pick, like if they made a trade for that player this year, then people would be much more comfortable with it, I'm sure. If you take a pick in the top 10 of this year's draft and then you trade it, people will be crushed. Why? Because people don't care as much about draft picks. They care about the players. And if you don't believe me, look at how Cam Reddish was treated in the last week. No one really cared about the pick that was used to get Cam Reddish for the most part. People are caring about Cam Reddish and the fact that he was even in the rumor mill. So maybe it's for the best that the Knicks don't even make this pick if it's getting someone that's a star. So who knows?
Berman has something on the bottom of his most recent article. The Knicks gauged many options in recent days, including deals for CJ McCollum, Norm Powell, Harrison Barnes, Jalen Brunson, Terrence Ross, and Pacers injured center Miles Turner, but came up empty. So they decided not to sell low. So none of those names are basically cap clearing types of deals. Those are all guys you give up assets for. And it sounds like the Knicks were trying to get a decent player on the cheap and couldn't get a decent player on the cheap.
And like you're saying, if they're not expiring contracts, then they were comfortable operating over the cap and doing what needs to be done to send out salary this summer.
Lunas and Marat, have to imagine there's a lot of the front office who are way more frustrated than us about the vets' kids' minutes. Wonder if Leon ever gets to the point where he tells Tibbs to fix it. I mean, we're going to find out. Right. I think
very soon
we're going to find out.
Let's put it this way. If the young players are playing, it's not because it's Tom Thibodeau's decision.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Robert Cross is back for more. Cutlets, please.
Didn't jump.
Me.
Good.
Hey.
Thank you, Robert. Glad he didn't jump.
Please tell me how I should be satiated by 13 second-round picks over the rest of the decade. Long-time listener. Hashtag 51 wins.
Oh, God. He's got nothing.
I don't know. I mean, what do you want me to say?
It's ammo.
Picks,
it's ammo.
Like,
it's ammo.
Use them in various ways. But a lot of times, second round picks are just, cheap lottery tickets. You hope they turn out really well, like Mitchell Robinson. But they more often than not turn into your Clee Anthony Earlys of the world. Like, that's just the way it goes. You hope for better. But I don't know. You could tell me they draft a generational superstar like Jokic in the second round, or that they just get players who do nothing for them. And I believe you either way.
Colin Reardon says F Tibbs got RJ hurt, just like Butler and Rose back in the day. Well, I mean, I don't know. I don't think he got RJ hurt, but he is the one who has to own it.
Yes.
Blood of the Panda, taking a page out of Leon Rose's book, turning off my phone, ignoring the scorched earth, and spending time caring for those that care for me. That is the best comment of the day.
Self-care is great. And genuine care. That's beautiful.
Dom Cappuccini, I'm not surprised. No moves. No one wanted what we were selling, not even for seconds. Damn Skippy. Are you guys as worried as I that Tibbs won't play the kids soon? Yeah. I mean, let's go through on a scale of 1 to 10. How worried are you guys that he will not play? And what's soon? Well, actually, no. Let's say this. How worried are you that he will not play the kids at a point in which you get really frustrated?
1 to 10, 10 being like very likely.
The most worried that he will not play the kids to the point where you get very frustrated.
I mean, probably a 9.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe. I don't want to say 10, but like probably a 9. That's the closest I'd get.
Yeah, I'm at 9. I think I'd argue most of us are there right now.
Yeah.
I'm at a 6.
Calm, cool, collected.
Someone's got to be. I don't know. We're finishing up Forgotten NYC. Positive note. Positive. I'm happy to finally get closure on the Porzingis trade. We should spend a minute on this. I would often have nightmares of KP and former Knicks winning rings with Luka. They traded that contract for, I think, Russell Westbrook's the worst contract in the NBA, even as what will become an expiring deal this summer. I don't think there's any question about that at this point. John Wall is probably second. Again, even though it expires in a year and a half.
Michael Porter Jr.
Couldn't you convince some desperate franchise to actually give up an asset to take that on?
I thought you were saying like worse, not untradeable contract. Like you're giving they give $200 million to a guy that has like a broken back. That's like one of the worst possible sports injuries.
Okay, fine. Put him in the conversation. Spencer Dinwiddie has to be in the conversation, given how he's played this year, and given that I know the last year, or actually next 2 years, are not fully guaranteed. But if he plays in enough games, they are guaranteed. And he's like, it's 50 games. Like he's going to play 50 games. That contract was an atrocity. And as far as contracts under $20 million, you could absolutely, and it's an easy case to make, that Davis Bertans is the worst contract in the league that is under $20 million annually. And that is what they got. And they sent a pick. I just, what do you say?
I'll tell you what to say. It was a failure on their part, 100% a failure. And here's why. They traded for a lanky 7'3" player who is anemic and does not want to play the 5, knowing that he had torn his ACL. They're comfortable trading their own picks for him, future picks, a protected pick that then locks up their future years, getting him, maxing him, pairing them with the superstar that is Luka Doncic, saying, we'll figure it out. They took on Tim Hardaway Jr.'s contract as a result. And then they got leveraged into paying Tim Hardaway Jr. another time because of the fact that if they let him walk, then they would be in a worse spot because how are they going to be able to do anything? They tried to retool the entire roster, right? They can't draft. They have not been able to draft efficiently, as I said. 2 good picks since the year 2000. Chris Persianen has lived to see 2 good picks in his lifetime from the Dallas Mavericks. That is terrible. Let's see. Again, free agency, they did not do well. The whole DeAndre Jordan thing was a nightmare. Then they did get him, and he was awful. Let's see what else. Trading. There's a fact that when a student at
Seth Curry for Josh
Wharton was saying to Mark Cuban, like, would you still make this trade with Josh Richardson for Seth Curry? And Mark Cuban said, I hate you. Next question. Like every move that they have made has been setting them back, and they changed the franchise over. They get someone new to come to this team in Nico, who used to be with Nike. Nico Harrison, I want to say is his last name. And they are retooling the roster with their own vision, and their vision does not include that of a, player who's going to miss maybe half of a season. And the fact is that Mark Cuban is he sticks to his guns a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And he's gotten burned in so many different directions. And I'm sure it was really hard for him to trade Kristaps Porzingis because it means admitting failure. It means that you have potentially irreparably damaged your opportunity with one of the best players in the game because of Kristaps Porzingis, which is also why I go back to, if you want to trade for a star, use another team's picks. The Mavs have learned that the hard way. Us as Knicks fans, we have learned that the hard way with the Melo trade. And going back to the fact where I was saying whiffing on the picks and not even having picks that you could even whiff on.
Yeah.
They set up Luka Doncic's entire time in Dallas to fail. And they're getting very close to it being entering the danger zone even more so. You could even argue that they've already entered it.
Well, he's not going to wait. Like, again, we always talk about who's going to be the first guy. Like if Luka, 3 years out is like, okay, I'm done. That's enough.
Right.
What do you think? They're going to
even your child agrees with that.
All right. Which means we have to finish up. Yushen Zhu, assuming we're operating over the cap, do you expect them to extend Mitch before the offseason? Well, that's the next So
good thought.
We haven't talked about Mitch today. The fact that they did not trade him, I would assume I would assume means they're not terribly worried about losing him for nothing, because they could have moved on from him today and gotten something of value. I don't know what the something is. They could have used Mitch to attain something that they wanted. They did not do that. They would not have done that if they are at least, maybe he's not here long term. I'm not saying that he is, but I think they feel pretty good about the fact that, like, again, when push comes to shove, they're going to get something for him. You want to talk about if he ever walked for nothing, barring, like, I can't even fathom what, if they ever let him walk for nothing, that would be by far the biggest nail in the coffin of this front office and their abilities. Which goes without saying. No defense. And then Josh, aka Uncle.
Can I jump in quickly on that?
Sure.
With Detroit, the fact that they traded for Bagley, that also would imply that they're maybe not looking to steal Mitch away. He's got a high cap hold. Even if they sign Bagley, and like they could do it, sign Bagley, close his cap hold, and then go for Mitch. I just am skeptical that he will. I think that if you're the Knicks, you can afford to play the market, right? Like Orlando has their own situation. San Antonio seems committed to Pirtle.
Yeah, but you can't fuck it up.
You can't. You absolutely can't. You have to lock it down. But I do agree that you could hypothetically extend him, and if you're operating over the cap, makes total sense to do that.
Josh, aka Uncle Fulio,
Uncle of Julio, right?
Uncle of Julio,
Uncle Fulio.
Uncle Fulio.
Yes?
I think it's Uncle Fulio. Trading the vets to make room for extended youth minutes is idiotic. The front office is sticking to the plan, remaining flexible, building through the draft. I hope so. Abdoulaye Diallo, Knicks fan PTSD is real. We would have given up our pinky toe 4 years ago to be where they are now. That's a fact.
Yeah.
The sky is not falling. We shouldn't pretend that it is. I don't think I hope we're not coming off as like the sky is falling. But again, I think for, you get your hopes up and then you want good things, and then the good things don't maybe happen. And then it's like, what the fuck?
Deflating.
Deflating is the word. Deflating is the word.
Go Pats.
Hey, you know who's still here and hopefully he's going to be back before we know it? RJ Barrett. Nomadic Knicks fan. First time, long time. Thanks for everything y'all do. Thank you for chiming in and for your contribution. Question. Do or can we bring Rokas over with our open 15th man spot to see how he does? Absolutely, they can.
They're not going to.
They're not going to, but they can. They can if they want to. I do not believe they will. And honestly, again, there's no rush. He's getting time over there. You actually have a great situation. You have a wonderful situation. He's playing meaningful minutes for a team that I understand is like, aren't they like competing for something over there? Isn't it like
they are? He's getting significant minutes. We already have a log jam here, but the most important thing is you want Rokas Jokubaitis to be here. Cool. Here's how he signs. You sign him to a 2-year minimum contract. And one of those years is the rest of this year. So you're basically signing Rokas to a 1-year contract, and then you have to pay him again. So easier to just
they're not gonna do it. You could sign him into an exception this offseason or whatever you're gonna do. Adult Donkeys, Barry Grateful, the legend continues. I love that name. Post-game live streams are gonna get dark. Yes, they are. The Knicks can't hurt me anymore, but it's fun watching new fans get hurt. Well, that's good that they can't hurt you anymore. I like that. And Kenneth Hart, love you guys and what you do with Rose coming back. Where does Grimes, Deuce, and Cam fit into this rotation? This feels like a significant step back. All right, that's a good place to end. Where do they fit into the rotation? I think here's my idea. Let's end by giving our ideal rotations. Starting point guard, Deuce McBride. Starting shooting guard, RJ Barrett. I don't think they're going to shut Fournier down anytime soon, and I don't think they're going to shut Randall down anytime soon. I think those guys are going to play moving forward, and at some point they'll get shut down, and then that'll be cool. And then Mitch at starting center, and then backups. And then so then here's your logjam. It's essentially it's the Cam question again, because if it's Rose playing, then it's Rose, Quickly, Grimes, Obi, and then a traditional backup 5, whether it's Sims or Noel. So they're really going to have to start resting Rose, really, or you rest Rose or you rest Fournier, because if you're resting only one of them. Right? If you're resting only one of them, that's fine. because then quickly could slide over to the backup point guard. If you're resting Fournier, Grimes moves up into the starting rotation. You play Cam with the backups. So to get what we want, essentially, no Kemba, no Burks, and no either Fournier or Rose. Did I get that?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, I guess for me, it'd be Deuce, Fournier, RJ, Randall, Mitch. You get a mix of what you need. Yeah, that's pretty much what you said.
Yeah.
And then the back, the bench unit would be Rose, Quickly, Cam, Obi, and Jericho. But then you're leaving out Grimes. And how realistic is it that Burks is not going to be there? And of course, Grimes is going to play. So it was Quickly the one who's now losing minutes. And that's why you then go to the idea of it's a lot easier to start. Like maybe you're starting Derrick Rose and you're bringing Quickly off the bench. But Tibbs doesn't love to do that. So maybe you're starting Quickly, because I would love to see Deuce play, but time is on Deuce's side. It's not as much on Quickly's side. I don't mean that in a negative way. I just mean that in like, Quickly was a first round pick. You've had him for a year and a half. You want to keep working on him. Deuce, he's a rookie. You can still have him play G League and dominate there. He needs better competition. But to me, I'd rather see Quickly get minutes than Deuce. I know I just listed Deuce first.
No, but I think the guy you're really keying in on is Cam.
That's it.
So
then it kind of like, even though that would be my ideal, I know it's not going to happen. And in that case, that's why I would shift Quickly up and then do something like Quickly and Fournier and them, and then Grimes and Cam in the backcourt, or off the bench.
All right. We have somehow gone overtime on a day when the Knicks did nothing. They did nothing.
You know why we've gone overtime though?
Why?
Because of our viewers asking great questions and sticking with us.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody out there. This was really a lot of fun. Andrew, anything before we get out?
3 things. One, we had as much as 1,200 people, to Jeremy's point, watching at a certain point. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in. As far as the reaction from tonight is the draft for the All-Star teams, in which Kevin Durant is a captain. So if you're looking for some entertainment tonight, him figuring out whether to take James Harden on his team and whether that doesn't, what to do with Joel Embiid, who now has James Harden on his team, might be interesting. So that's something to watch. And then there was one more thing. Oh, John, we now can watch Luka Doncic and be not conflicted by it. I can root for him, which we were saying on Patreon all year. That
I'm not next year. I'm not rooting for him next year.
I'm rooting for that situation to
this year.
Burn.
Okay.
I don't. No. Are you? I don't want the Mavs to do anything. I want Jalen Brunson on the Knicks. I want next year's pick to be the 11th pick overall. And then I want them, they can, then from there, I don't care as much because they're kind of drifting off on their own.
Let me rephrase. But then the path to rooting for Luka Doncic with no conflictions whatsoever is just a year and a half away. Now that Porzingis is no longer on the team,
I can get behind that. Sure.
Yes, fine. Jessica with one last comment. Cheer up, everyone. Maybe they'll have a 1994 Nugget style run. Probably not, but anything could happen. Thanks, guys. You're welcome. And you're right. Probably not.
Last one from Jessica. Cheer up, everyone. Maybe they'll have it.
Just read that.
So, oh shit!
Get off your phone.
Literally just read that.
I was looking at a tweet that I thought was relevant. It was not relevant. I want to make sure we don't forget anything before we.
You're correct.
Oh,
you're correct.
By the way, so last one from Jessica.
I'm the
John,
worst. Sorry.
Thank you for taking time out of your busy day, Jeremy, as well. This was my busy day, and now I got to go talk about Remember the Titans. So if you want to check out
Thank
Final
you, Jessica.
Review, yes. If you want to go check out Final Review, go ahead. But yeah, as always, guys, this misery loves company, and I know a lot of us are deflated, miserable, upset, sad today, but doing it together with all of you on here makes it easier. So
hold on, we got one more from Jessica.
That's the new Matt Damon joke, like with Jimmy Kimmel. Just one more from Jessica before we go.
Like that. All right. Peace out, everybody.